You don't either.
Never liked Ultra
Those two
Beach.
out there don't remember it either. Michaela said it's before her time.
I would say it never got into top 10 anyway.
It did, 2003.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for the blast from the past that no one remembers.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Okay, have a good day.
I don't know. Right, good luck. Talk to you tomorrow.
Bye. That's Rory Farrell there, of course, back with you tomorrow morning, 6:30. It's 9 o'clock. It's the 9 till noon show. In fact, it's a little past 9. It's time for our first news update. Good morning to Catherine Gaffney.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A man who suffered head injuries in an assault in Sligo has died. The man, who was aged in his late 30s, was attacked on Rockwood Parade in the town on Tuesday evening. He was initially treated at Sligo Hospital but was then transferred to Beaumont Hospital in Dublin, where he was later pronounced dead. Gardaí are treating his death as suspicious and a post-mortem will be carried out later today. The PRO of the Mica Action Group says the possibility of the Mica redress scheme being extended to other parts of the country is not surprising. Donegal has been deemed the epicentre of the crisis. However, the Irish Times quotes an unpublished report from the expert group investigating Mica that state's engineers are reporting similar issues in other counties. PRO Michael Doherty says there is an onus on TDs nationwide to rally behind the issue to get the best possible scheme over the line.
Other TDs in other counties that thought they were immune from all this need to wake up and smell the coffee, need to get the shoulder to the wheel and get the best possible scheme we can over the line, because this is not just a scheme for Donegal, this is a scheme for every affected county, and by the time we're finished we just don't know where that ends. So now's the time to make their presence felt and not just ignore Donegal, who have done all the heavy lifting so far, I might add, but it's time they put the shoulder to the wheel.
The minister overseeing the housing of Ukrainian refugees says the use of more large grouped accommodation is likely. 70 people fleeing the Russian invasion arrived at the Mill Street Arena in Cork last night, where they will share living and eating facilities, but will be provided with private sleeping spaces for families. More than half of the accommodation pledged by Irish people through the Red Cross hasn't materialised, and it's anticipated there will be a shortage by the end of next week. Minister Roderick O'Gorman says 4,000 extra beds will become available on third-level campuses from the end of May, but it still won't meet demand.
I think this kind of larger scale grouped accommodation is more likely going forward. I know in Poland, I know in Romania, large stadia from very early on in this crisis were taken over and camp beds put in them. Look, I don't think anyone feels that approach is the optimum. It's not in a perfect world. It's not what we'd like to be providing for people, but we're not in a perfect world. We're in a major European war.
Donegal ETB and Uachtaráis na Gaeltachta have signed a 5-year memorandum of understanding. It's set to build on a history of collaboration and an established partnership between the two organisations. Michaela Clark has more details.
The aims of the partnership are consistent with the strategic plans and strategic statements of both organisations. These include working together to provide opportunities for training and education through the GTEC network and the network of Donegal ETB, FET centres, promoting and supporting economic development and job creation. It also includes working collaboratively on projects of mutual interest, which will benefit the community in Donegal, promoting and facilitating opportunities for community education at local level, encouraging and empowering communities and individuals, and providing them with the knowledge and skills to benefit from the county's natural resources, and working with the Gaeltacht companies to ensure that the workforce has the necessary skills to sustain and grow, and working together to provide the Gaeltacht community with apprenticeships. A strategic planning group will be established and will meet quarterly to discuss the operation and strategic development of the partnership over the next 5 years.
Weather now. Today will be mostly dry with hazy sunny spells developing. Highest temperatures of 13 to 16 degrees. That's it for now. We're back with more 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Whoa! That anti-gravity slide is unbelievable, Marion!
You know what else is unbelievable?
Fake tan?
No, that 90% of money spent on the National Lottery goes back into the community.
Yeah, right.
It does. Most of it goes into prizes, of course. Good causes get a big chunk, and there's all the shopkeepers too. 90%.
That is unbelievable.
But true.
The National Lottery. Support responsibly. 90% based on most recent audited accounts.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It is 6 minutes past 9 on this Thursday, the 21st of April. I do hope you are well. And hopefully we have the pleasure of your company for the next 3 hours in this programme and throughout the day here on your number one, Highland Radio. The lines are open for you right now. If you want to get in contact with the show, 086 60 25,000. That's your WhatsApp. That is your text number, or 07491 25,000. Lots coming up. We're going to be talking history with Joe later. That's always very popular and keeping right across all the big news stories and topics and features, as you would expect. If there's a concern you have, an issue you want to raise, or not erase, we'd all have to, there's some issues we'd like to erase, but one you'd like to raise, then get in contact with us as well. If you want to relate a positive story too, feel free to get in touch on those numbers. Right, let's crack on with the papers, as it is Thursday. It's busy. John McAteer's story in the front of the Tyrconnell Tribune this morning as concerns emerge over the future of the cardiology service for angiograms at Letterkenny University Hospital. It's understood that after June, the weekly visit of the mobile cath lab will cease. The future service for Donegal patients is expected to be provided from Sligo University Hospital. That's according to sources. To the same time, a fixed cardiac radiology unit that was donated by the Friends of LUH to the HSE in 2018 has never been commissioned. This unit can also be used in angioplasty surgery, and 4 years ago it was regarded as a major step forward for the hospital. We do not want to see services going, do we? A spokesperson for the Friends of LUH has confirmed that they provided the funding of €750,000, and as far as they are concerned, the state-of-the-art facility is still lying idle after 4 years. Certainly worthy of a deeper dive there. Get it, the newspaper if you want to read more there. The Donegal News, with some 7,000 households in Donegal depending on turf for heat. Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue this week said turf is an essential source of heat for many householders here. In a statement to the Donegal News yesterday, the Minister said turf is a part of life for many households in Donegal, and added that the government will not be preventing the basic rights of people to use their own turf. Well, we know that anyway. What the problem is that it's been speculated that you won't be allowed to cut turf, sell it or gift it. That's what the hoo-ha's about. We're well assured that people can cut their own turf and use it. His response to a question from the newspaper came as uncertainty reigned over Minister Eamon Ryan's proposal to ban turf cutting and sales from September. While Minister Ryan has suggested turbary rights, that is, the right to cut your own turf and use it, as Charlie McConalogue said, should be protected, or easement to dig, cut and carry away turf on a bog located on another person's land to use as fuel for one's house would continue. He described his proposed ban on large-scale turf extraction as justifiable. Excuse me, I haven't spoken for 3 days. Well, I have, but as a justifiable response. That's what he said, a justifiable response. So he's doubling down on his proposals to ban it from September 1st. The Donegal Democrat, what has been described as a perfect storm of factors, has led to more than 20 pubs and restaurants in Donegal being made available for sale or lease. Now, I've spoken to people over the years, and this is in no way being dispassionate, by the way, who have suggested that maybe we had too many pubs and restaurants, certainly in certain towns, to be sustained. But anyway, it's not that opinion that's causing these closures, it's other factors. 4 pubs are for sale in Donegal town alone, and premises are also on the market in Ballybofey, Dookery, Brockles, Fannin, Kilcar, Ballyshannon, Bunbeg and Derrybeg. A number of premises offering accommodation are also on the market. Increased running costs due to higher prices of electricity, oil and insurance, combined with staff shortages and the ending of the COVID-19 business support, of some of the factors that have been blamed for business owners looking to leave the hospitality sector. I wonder too, you know, like all of us as well, not all of us, sorry, many of us through the 2 years, I wonder if people maybe made the decision as well to say that maybe this lifestyle's not for me, or maybe there's something else I can do. I wonder, is that also a factor, as well as, you know, them being driven out of business? The Derry News, an Ulster History Circle blue plaque honouring legendary Derry musician James McCafferty will be unveiled at his lifelong home on 25 Francis Street in the city this weekend. More on that story on the front of and inside that paper. The Farmers Journal tells us that the cost of building materials for farm sheds continues to soar and shows no sign of abating. Raw steel has increased from 1,000 to 2,000 per tonne. Cladding prices are up 100% on February last year, and timber prices are up 50%. Now, they've been rising for some time. The price rises will likely see farm building work stall. One shed builder said that by the time a farmer is done paying for fertiliser and meal, the sheds are on the back foot. Another added that the farm building work is back by almost 50% on last year. Irish Farmer Journal analysis shows that the cost of building a typical 3-bay slatted shed has soared by 52% compared with 2018. Just a reference in the Irish Times to the story you heard from Catherine there in our 9 o'clock news. A scheme to provide grants to homeowners affected by mica could be extended nationwide under new plans after the latest expert report said it appears inevitable that other counties would be affected. Minister for Housing Darragh O'Brien is working on legislation to give homeowners in Donegal and Mayo access to enhanced grants to repair defects in their homes caused by the mineral which has caused building blocks to crumble. However, an unpublished report from the expert group on the Enhanced Effective Concrete Block Grant Scheme states that engineers are reporting similar issues in other counties. And through the course of this, of course, we all would have been, those that have an understanding of it, would have been notified from other areas that it's not just Donegal and Mayo. That would have been stated at the march in Dublin last year and in other venues, of course. Well, the government late last year agreed to finance a $2.2 billion scheme to rebuild and remediate an estimated 7,500 homes which have been structurally damaged by mica. The Cabinet agreed to a scheme where 100% redress will be available to affected homes up to a ceiling of 420,000 per home. But it seems that it's going to be extended out, or will have to be extended out to Clare, Sligo, Limerick and Tipperary. And sources said it could be widened even further. Okay. On to the Irish Independent now, and employees will be able to take legal cases against their employer if it refuses a request for reduced or more flexible working hours under proposed work-life balance laws. I do wonder sometimes when we talk about these, new working practices, how many of us it's actually relevant to. The type of jobs that we often have in this part of the world. It seems that maybe a particular industries or a particular way of working. I just feel sometimes when I'm reading this employment law stuff, it just doesn't feel relevant to many of us. But the Work-Life Balance Bill from the Children's Minister Roderick O'Gorman will give the employees the right to in future to go to the Workplace Relations Commission to challenge the decision of their employer to reject the request for reduced or for flexible hours to take care of children or look after look after other relatives, it says. This is another element of this. It's an intriguing story and no doubt will be the feature of a documentary on some streaming service or other into the future. And this is in the Irish Daily Mail. Gardaí are examining Sean Quinn's diary, phone and a stash of documents after searching his home for several hours yesterday. Businessman Mr. Quinn, his wife Patricia and several of their grandchildren were in the home in Cavan when a large group of Gardaí arrived with a search warrant at around 10:30 a.m. Several of the grandchildren were understandably upset given that Gardaí turned up en masse without advance notice, Mr. Quinn's solicitor Chris McGettigan told the Irish Daily Mail. Gardaí released a statement saying that the search was part of an investigation into alleged criminality along the border region. Mr. Quinn, once Ireland's richest man, but whose former business empire is now under new ownership, has spoken of his difficult relationship with the Quinn Industrial Holdings board. Yesterday, Mr. Quinn said he was told by Gardaí that the search was in relation to coercion, deception, harassment, stuff like that. So it's another subchapter or chapter in a fascinating story. Another story which is... I've been reading an awful lot about, have been for years, but more so in the last while, and that is obviously, well, it's not obvious at all. It's the action taken by the Irish and the Americans and others to Daniel Kinahan and his family. And now the inevitable happened yesterday. MTK, a boxing promotion outfit that was very, very generous apparently to its boxers, which was started by Daniel Kinahan. He's alleged to have stepped away a few years back, but still boxers associated with that promotion were saying that he was involved in making their fights. Well, MTK is folding. The boxing company co-founded by Daniel Kinahan has thrown in the towel after a hugely damaging week for the mob boss. MTK Global, which was co-founded by Kinahan and boxer Matthew Macklin in Marbella, Spain in 2012, stated in a bombshell announcement yesterday that it was ceasing its operations following what it called unprecedented levels of unfair scrutiny. That being said, they themselves in 2020 said he was still involved. But anyway, the International Boxing Management Company, which boxing insiders believe continued to work with Kinahan despite claiming it parted ways with him in 2017, yesterday tried to claim that unfounded allegations have led to its downfall. And there's another boxing promotion company called Problem. I think that's how it's pronounced. A lot of their boxers are going to head over to Problem. But what has Problem been linked to in the past? And where did it buy its name from? MTK. So there's more to run on that story, but I understand from reading that a lot of the TV companies, the likes of Eurosport, for example, didn't want to work with MTK going forward. There are gyms associated with that brand around the country. One, maybe not too far away from here, are unaffected by that because they're independently run and aren't connected to the directly to MTK Global. I want to read this story because this happens up here all of the time, and you hear people come on when a lifebuoy, for example, is stolen. That it's big news. It's an important issue that we raise and others raise as well, of course. And I've had people say, "Sure, why would you be talking about a lifebuoy going missing?" Because when it's needed and it's not there, it could cost life. And sadly, that seems to what's happened to what has happened down the country. So just a reminder to the importance of, even though maybe people do it for fun and no malice necessarily, if you know what I mean, that lifebuoys really should not be touched because it is a matter of life and death. And a lifebuoy was missing from its stand when rescuers tried to help a man who fell into River Liffey while on the way home from a night out last year, an inquest has heard. A sitting of Dublin District Coroner's Court was told that Daniel Cullen died after falling in at Sir John Rogerson's Quay shortly before midnight on June 8th while he and two other friends were urinating. Mr. Cullen, 34, a former civil servant from Tyrone, had been commuting to Dublin on a regular basis to pursue an acting career before his death. Brian Davidson, who had been socialising with Daniel, said they and another friend called Jake and stopped near the diving bell on the quays. Mr. Davidson said he only met Daniel for the first time earlier that evening as a friend of a friend, and it goes on and on. But the important element of that story is the fact that as they tried to rescue that young man, the lifebuoy was not there. And finally, as many of us do or have done, password sharing for the likes of Netflix, it goes on, but Netflix have had enough of it now. Not only have they bumped up their prices, and you may have got a notification from them recently to say that the price of the streaming service was going up. Well, they're going to knock the head on people sharing outside of households Netflix passwords. So if you in Letterkenny are sharing your sister's password in Buncrana or even England or wherever it is, they're going to be cracking down on that now. Netflix plans to crack down on shared accounts as it loses customers and revenue growth wanes. The streaming service reckons 100 million households break its rules by sharing their logins. The practice helped Netflix to grow, but the firm said it's harming business under competition from rivals Amazon, Apple and Disney. Boss Reed Hastings said, "When we were growing fast, it wasn't a high priority to work on. Now we're working super hard on it." The firm lost a net 200,000 subscribers in the past 3 months, and they're warning it could lose 2 million more by July. That's despite spending 510 million on marketing. Shares slumped 26% on the news. But content is king. And, during our conversations on a Friday, where we talk entertainment and stuff, it's been said before that you do sometimes get a sense that you've run out of things to watch on Netflix. So you can't put the price up if you're not providing extra content, I don't think anyway. Right, okay, we're going to take a break before we introduce our next guest, but what we will do is to give you an early reminder of a great quiz running on the programme, thanks to our friends at Florit. Here are the details if you wish to enter. We'll be right back after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie. To celebrate 5 years in business, Florit Letterkenny are giving one lucky listener the opportunity to win a €500 in-store voucher. To enter, answer the following question. How many years has Florit been in business? Text HI followed by your name and answer to 53131. From Northern Ireland, text 84555. Texts cost 30 cents or the sterling equivalent. The operator's network charge may apply. Lines will close on Friday the 22nd of April 2022. And the winner will be announced on the 9 till noon show on Friday the 22nd of April 2022.
You can do pretty much anything in just a few taps. Buy a car, book a holiday, and now you can even apply for a permanent TSB digital current account in-app in minutes. It's quick, it's mobile, it's the start of making your everyday banking easier. Now that's permanent support. Application in your sole name for over 18 personal customers and residents of the Republic of Ireland only. Qualifying criteria, terms and conditions apply. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Join EirGrid, the operator of the national electricity grid, on May the 4th at the Clanry Hotel Letterkenny and May the 5th at the Abbey Hotel Donegal Town for the EirGrid Energy Citizens Roadshow. These roadshows will provide information about home energy efficiency upgrades, retrofitting grants, community microgeneration schemes and the future of energy in Donegal. To register for the roadshows, visit airgrid.ie/shaping. EirGrid, delivering a cleaner energy future.
Charles Bonner & Sons Ballybuffet are the leading suppliers of solid fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, bringing warmth and comfort to homes in Donegal and beyond for nearly 50 years. So visit our showrooms in Ballybuffet or call us on 074 9131 700 or online at thestovestore.ie for more details.
Are you troubled with painful varicose veins? Restore your confidence with vein treatment at Kingsbridge Private Hospital, Letterkenny. Our vascular consultants offer assessment, advice and options on the latest treatments available. So why wait? Say goodbye to varicose veins and hello to healthy legs. With appointments available, why not book your consultation today? Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.ie to find out more. Because life matters.
Now, Dorothy Mcginley is the new Vice President of the Irish National Teachers Organisation, a native of Annagry. She represented District 2, encompassing Derry, Tyrone, Fermanagh, Armagh and South Donegal on the INTO Central Executive Committee since 2012, and she's on with us now. Good morning and congratulations to you, Dorothy. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, good morning, Craig, and thank you. Yes, I'm absolutely delighted to be the Vice President of the INTO. Absolutely over the moon, actually.
Yeah, indeed. And, I mean, you've been heavily involved with the INTO for some time now, haven't you? You haven't just came in at the last minute and secured this nice position. You've been working, plugging away, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely, Craig. I mean, as you said, Craig, I am actually representing District 2, which encompasses the north of Ireland. And yes, and we have a very, very strong membership in the north. We have over 5,000 members. And so we were very, very honoured now to actually have a Vice President now actually for the whole of Ireland. Yes, I have been involved in INTO for a very, very long time, both at branch officership, from branch secretary in Strabane right up to the Education Committee, working on pay fair deal campaigns and fair pay in the north. And it's now an absolute honour now to be actually working as Vice President now for the incoming year.
Right, okay. Now, some of the key issues, your key issues, obviously, I imagine, will be those that were raised during the recent INTO conference, the likes of class sizes and salaries. Well, in terms of salaries, that's negotiated within a broader agreement, isn't it? I mean, what can you achieve on that, do you think?
Oh, well, you see, the thing is, because now I'm actually a Vice President for both North and South, and I'm going to be working within the two different jurisdictions, pay absolutely will was a big issue at the Congress and for the last couple of days. We heard delegates on the floor come up about the issue of how the cost of living is biting, and we all know that right across the board. It is biting, it is soaring, and that teacher pay is failing to keep pace with inflation. I mean, Greg, you do know that actually we showed flexibility right through this ongoing change and the pandemic. And we know that inflation is now outstripping our modest pay increases that we got through our building momentum, and the derisory and the insulting pay offer that we were giving in the North in 2019-20. And all we want, Greg, is fair pay. We're actually having a fair pay campaign now in the North where we're actually lobbying our politicians. We're having elections coming up in the 2 weeks. And all we want, Greg, is fair pay for teachers.
In relation to that,
valued.
Yeah, sorry, I beg your pardon. Is it an advantage? Is it an advantage or a challenge? For you, in that there's going to be different issues in the North versus the South. Do you know what I mean? Does that leave you in a stronger position? Maybe there's a lot of teachers in the North. Maybe, I'll be honest with you, I did not know the INTO represented teachers in Northern Ireland, for example. Now, I don't know everything. I just wonder, is there a bit of work to be done in that regard? Do members of the INTO in the North feel they have a bit of catching up to do in terms of representation from your union?
Absolutely. We're actually doing our very, very best. I mean, in terms of representation, Craig, it's important to mention that we are actually an organisation that represents teachers in nursery, primary, post-primary, special schools and right across the board. And we are working in both jurisdictions. Yes, the North of Ireland is actually behind in terms of pay to our colleagues in the South, but we are actually working very, 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 very hard in lobbying our politicians. We're working with the NITC and the other unions in the North to try and actually get a fair deal and a fair pay for our teachers in the North. In the South, we're actually we're working through the building momentum that we have, but we're actually looking for that increase. Just that we need to have. Last week, it was announced that the unions were actually they actually called that there would be engagement through the building momentum engagement, and we want some more engagement to address these unexpected increase in living costs. And yes, it would be our hope that the North would actually try and come up with the South someday, but you must realise, Greg, that we are working in different jurisdictions, but INTO always do their best.
In terms of class salaries, it's not unrelated to the likes of salaries as well, because even if, provision is made to employ extra teachers, it's about retaining the teachers that are qualifying and working in our school environment and the other sectors you mentioned being an attractive proposition. So in at least some ways, these issues are interlinked.
Absolutely. And that's the other issue that we talked about at Congress for the last couple of days is adequate funding in our schools. I mean, with COVID, we actually did receive more resources, and we want those resources maintained. For example, we got an increase in our supply panels. We got student teachers being able to, address the sub-crisis. And now that the pandemic is actually levelling off, hopefully, we want actually to maintain those resources in order to move forward. I mean, we have the Engage programme in the North of Ireland that actually give extra teachers to our schools, much needed extra teachers. And if we want to actually provide a very, very, very good educational system, we need to be able to actually retain these resources.
Yeah, but the signals aren't great, are they? Because of course we have, I think it's in the Republic, 2,000 young Ukrainian people enrolled in schools. I think that's the correct figure. I think it's over 3,000 in total, and I think it's 2,000 in national school, effectively. And then also reading that, schools haven't necessarily had an awful lot of contact from the Department of Education. Do you know what I mean? That schools have been, to some extent, left to their own devices. Now, I've been out of the news loop for a couple of days. I'm not sure if that's improved much since. But, it doesn't bode well, does it, going forward in terms of what you're hoping to achieve when we struggle with communication as it relates to accommodating our young Ukrainian students?
You know what, Craig? INTO have been consistently lobbying the government. There are 16 different agencies now throughout the island where all the different agencies are coming together and addressing what it is that will be needed for the Ukrainian children coming into our schools. But if we are allowed to hold on to some of the funding or all of the funding that we got for COVID. This will actually be very, very, very helpful in dealing with the issues that we're actually going to be facing in our schools. We'll be welcoming the Ukrainian children into our schools. We always roll up our sleeves. We take where we get, but we need to have support from our government.
Yeah, but that can't be exploited either. You see, and we hear often the same thing as it plays to say nurses. Just because teachers will roll up their sleeves and they'll do everything they can, that can't be taken advantage of, because there's a history there.
What way, Craig?
In that the goodwill of teachers is exploited by the Department of Education, for example, because they know teachers will do precisely what they say. But what you need is the Department of Education to be truly working hand in hand with teachers and not to be exploiting their goodwill.
And you can be assured that INTO, Craig, will be working hand in hand with the officials and the department officials to actually make sure that the teachers are well-resourced for any eventuality that's coming their way. And that's what we will be coming to do. We have a body of work to be doing. That's what we were given at Congress, and be assured that INTO will be doing their utmost support members and all teachers throughout this island in the coming weeks and months in relation to this.
Last but not least, the issue of mental health supports was raised during the week as well. There's nothing typical about any of what we're talking about, but what kind of support, what situations are presenting themselves, do you think that means that we need to focus on mental health supports?
Yeah, mental health supports is actually something that's ongoing, Craig, and this is not something new. I mean, we have had reductions in NEP psychologists in the south of Ireland. We've had reductions of psychologists in the north of Ireland. I mean, over and over again, INTO have been asking and have been lobbying, because in order to address the needs of the children, we need to have more NEP support. We need to have more psychologists, and that's something that the INTO will continue to lobby on in the next year. And because it's important, because if we're actually able to teach and to actually deliver the curriculum to the children that we have in front of us, we need to have the adequate supports, and NEPs is one of the ones that we will be actually lobbying for, as well as the educational psychologists in the north, Craig.
Okay, thanks for your time. How long's your term, Dorothy?
It started yesterday. It will continue up until next Easter, and then hopefully I will be becoming president of the organisation.
Okay, lovely stuff. Listen, thank you for joining us this morning, and congratulations again.
All
right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Dorothy Mcginley, the new ITO Vice President and future President from Annagry, currently a teacher in Sign Mills in County Tyrone. 086 60 25,000 is the number you're getting us on. Greg, how will turf selling embargo be policed? It would be practically impossible, and I'm sure the politicians behind it know this. It's another smokescreen. We're not talking about the huge all-round price increases, but about one of the silliest stalls proposed in our country for a long time. And that's come in, and I kind of say the same thing over and over again, and I'm sorry to repeat myself. You see, firstly, there is a large chunk of the population that, because something is banned, they will stop doing it because they don't want to get into trouble. Okay, that is a fact. And then you don't have to police it all the time. You just have people turn up on one or two occasions, and the word goes out amongst the community, and another tranche of people might stop doing it, and then eventually it peters out. A new generation comes through, they don't do it, and they achieve their goal. And sadly, perhaps that is just how it goes, and there's plenty of examples over the years as to how something that seems impossible to enforce, the enforcement of it, even if it's not heavy enforcement, is effective in its elimination. Why is the Minister of Housing not regulating quarries and block manufacturing? Otherwise the mica scandal will never end. Whose interests is he guarding? Well, there are inspections and what have you going on in quarries around the country, as was revealed to Gahearlock Jack Murray. You might remember when he was on with us, he was waiting on a number of questions to be answered. That was amongst them. I might read the details of that to you later. It might not be going far enough, but I certainly remember it being referenced. Very shocked to see the further possible erosion of services at Letterkenny Hospital, with the headline from the Tyrconnell Tribune last night reporting LUH faces a loss of the angiogram service. We cannot be losing services. That would be my feeling. And maybe some of you can help on this one as we head into the break. A lot of parents have been in this position, and it can be terrifying and very worrying, and you can feel very lonely in it. This person's daughter is suffering from anxiety, And I'm wondering if there are any natural ways of treating this condition. Is there any therapies or alternative remedies that people could recommend and have had success with? So what has worked for your younger people? You know, taking their mind off things, exercise, all that kind of stuff. Probably some of the best natural remedies that you can get, getting out and about, getting fresh air, more interests as much as possible. But perhaps other people out there have some further advice. 086 60 25,000. WhatsApp or text. Now, if you've never WhatsApped the programme or texted or called it, feel free to do so. Raise your issues, have your say, get involved. We want it really busy on the phones today. You can call our team on 07491 25,000 as well if you prefer to speak to them.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
Attention all tractor and forklift owners. Donegal Tyres in Donegal Town is a leading supplier of agricultural and solid forklift tyres in the northwest with a huge range available at competitive prices. Donegal Tyres can help you choose the correct tyre for your application and we will come to you, so no downtime. Check out DonegalTyres.com or call 07497 21482. That's Donegal Tyres, Donegal Town, where you'll get a great deal.
Shed costs soar by over 50%. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
With the rapid price rise in building materials, we look at the costs of building a farm shed this year. Find out if solar panels are right for your farm and how long they could take to repay. Investigation launched into Kerry Milk Bonus payout, and TB numbers fall for the first time since 2016.
Plus, we have a special health and fitness focus in Irish country living. Only inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. On sale now.
On the farm, if you need some machinery parts, contact Tinney's Agri Spares in Letterkenny. Specialists in parts for Sammy, Lamborghini, John Deere and Zetter. Also stocking a full range of service and wearing parts for Kuhn balers and mowers. And a full range of agricultural lubricants at unbeatable prices. On the farm, get it sorted at Tinney's Agri Spares, Leck Road, Letterkenny. Call 91222374.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Forward Emphasis International, based in Mallinhead, are expanding their in-office sales team with attractive bonus schemes and insurance qualifications available. Bursary and study support also provided. Experience in contact centres or insurance services is desirable but not essential, as full training will be provided. Please visit their website at www.forwardemphasis.ie and apply via their careers page.
Now, as we were looking at the papers this morning, you heard the story that Gardaí are examining Sean Quinn's diary, phone and a stash of documents, according to one paper, after searching his home for several hours yesterday. I'm delighted to welcome on to the programme Ciarán Flaherty. He's a senior reporter with the Impartial Reporter. He joins us on the programme now. Ciarán, thanks so much for taking the call this morning. It's greatly appreciated.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Right. Did you see this coming? This search, or what do you think? As much as we can say, triggered it.
It was kind of quite out of the blue, I suppose. There was no real indication that they were heading towards Sean Quinn's house. Obviously, in the past, there's been a lot of speculation about things that have went on in that area. But that's all it was at that stage, speculation. There was no hard evidence, as you say. So no, it wasn't seen coming anyway, on this side anyway.
So, as far as you know, what happened? What was taken away, and what next?
Well, guards from the Cavan Monaghan Garda Division, they landed at his house outside Ballyconnell yesterday morning, I think at just around 10 o'clock, as part of an ongoing criminal investigation into alleged criminal activity in Cavan and the wider border region. They were there for about 4 hours. The search concluded shortly after 2 o'clock. There was no arrest made, but Mr. Quinn, when he was speaking to the BBC yesterday, he said that his phone, his diary and a big box of stuff was taken from the house. But for what reason, he says he doesn't know. He said he was none the wiser as to why they were there, and he called the whole thing a fishing expedition.
And what is the history of this in terms of Sean Quinn, his involvement with the company and his relationship with it now? I mean, obviously there's a massive history, Kieran, but just a brief overview.
Yeah, well, I suppose that sort of area of Fermanagh and Cavan was a Sean Quinn stronghold with the whole Quinn plants down there, and with the recession and stuff like that, he lost everything. The company was taken from him and is now in the hands of, it's called Mannock, is run by former employees of Sean Quinn and former right-hand men. But Sean Quinn and it have no relationship now. He did come back in as an advisor at one stage, but that didn't last too long. And he has absolutely no say in what happens in that company at the minute down there, or anything happens down there, really.
Yeah, now, I mean, I don't know if it's a quirk of the locality or the history, but, you know, people leave companies on a regular basis, but it never creates the kind of, division and drama. And obviously, if we remember what happened to Mr. Lunny, the terrible consequences for people, it's almost unique in that regard, is it? On this island, anyway.
Yeah, there was a lot of loyalty for Sean Quinn. He totally he rejuvenated that area. It was a place of probably desolation before he started up his whole operation down there. So he brought a lot of success and a lot of money and a lot of jobs to the area, and kept people in the area that maybe would have left it otherwise. So there is a huge degree of loyalty for him around that Cavan-Fermanagh border area, and it still remains, even though he is no longer doing that there.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that it's connected, but obviously after the convictions following the kidnap and torture of Kevin Lunny, I seem to recall that police and Gardaí were still keen to find out who might be calling the shots, who would be pulling the strings on such activities.
Yes, very much so. I think that is still an ongoing investigation, and they are still looking to find out who was telling the people to do what they actually done. But as of yet, there has been nothing concrete on that.
All right, listen, Kieran, thanks very much for your time this morning. I appreciate it greatly. Kieran Flaherty, senior reporter with the Impartial Reporter, just giving us a little bit more detail on that story, which, as I say, feels like a TV documentary unfolding sort of in real time, if that makes sense. Good morning, Greg. I use Netflix and found that once you've watched the few things you wanted to watch, there's not much else to choose from. So I'm giving up my subscription. These new rules are a sign that they are not doing too well. But will you give up your subscription, you see? I wonder, because I think a lot of people have been going, this latest price increase is just the last straw. I'm going to cancel it. But do people do it? As far as I can see, a lot of it stuff is you can get on the BBC iPlayer, ITV Hub, or on the Channel 4 player. And then there's a few high-profile things that are on it, of course. But I think most people who are interested in that stuff has watched it already. And then the films are, they're not exactly recent blockbusters from our perspective. Netflix in the United States and Canada, for example, very, very different. But anyway, are you going to cancel your Netflix subscription? They lost subscribers for the first time since like 2012 or something. They're remodeling the business effectively. All right, back in a mo.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
There's amazing deals every week at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Great specials in tools, hardware and homeware. If you're a tradesperson or you're doing a one-off job, you'll find everything from power tools to hand tools and paint to work clothing. For great weekly deals and a great selection, visit Watson Hire at Kiltoy, Letterkenny. For more information, visit the Facebook page or see watsonhire.ie.
Are you thinking of making the switch to electric? Come visit us in iMotors, Donegal's SEAI EV Dealer of the Year 2022. We will answer any questions and help you make the switch. With our award-winning lineup of Kia EVs available now, come visit us at iMotors in Letterkenny and Malin.
There's a big Easter sale on all Peg Perego electric ride-ons at Tinny's Toys in Letterkenny. Get the John Deere Gator and Tractor, New Holland Tractor, Outlaw Quad and the complete Peg Perego range, all reduced by 10% until this Saturday. Shop online at tinnystoys.com or in store at Leck Road, Letterkenny.
Hello, Grace. Where are you heading?
Down to Made to Measure Fireplaces in Creasla.
Made to Measure Fireplaces? Didn't you just buy a fireplace there?
Yeah, but I'm going now to pick my kitchen worktop.
Create the kitchen and living room of your dreams at Made to Measure Fireplaces and Granite Worktops. They've been in business for over 40 years. So for help choosing granite or quartz for your worktop, fireplace or stove, visit the Made to Measure showroom at Cashel Creasla or see mtmfireplaces.com or on Facebook.
Kilcar GAA will hold their weekly online bingo again this Sunday at 8 p.m. The jackpot now stands at €10,000. Weekly guaranteed prizes of €1,400 every Sunday. For more details, visit the website kilcargaa.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Get ready to hit the beach and soak up the sun by choosing flights to Alicante, Barcelona, Faro, Mallorca, Malaga and Milan this summer with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport, you're flying.
All right, let's see if this nice weather will continue. Any mist will clear this morning today. Mostly dry with hazy sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 13 to 16 degrees in a moderate to fresh east to south-east breeze. But the weather is always stunning and beautiful in Inishowen, and I'm sure Christina McGlenny will testify. She's chair of Explore Inishowen. Good morning to you, Christina. Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you. I can't hear you, Christina. I wonder, are you muted there? That's okay. Yeah, I have you.
A typical practice with this Zoom is this muting.
If I get through one show without having to ask, I would be very disappointed. So it's you today. Camilla, talk to me about these calls for a merger between Inishowen Tourism and Fulch Ireland, Donegal Tourism and Inishowen Tourism. What's being proposed here?
Okay, well, it's very interesting to see the reports in the local newspaper here recently, calls made for Inishowen and Donegal Tourism to merge and everything. So what we're doing basically is, I'm chair of Explore Inishowen, and we're looking at the whole tourism thing around Inishowen. Inishowen is absolutely fantastic, beautiful sitting here today looking out the window and how stunning it actually is. Now, just to give people a wee bit of background, Explore Inishowen CLG is a company that was started a couple of years ago in order to receive funding for the promotion of the Inishowen Peninsula. But we also have another organisation which is linked to Donegal County Council, which is Donegal Tourism CLG as well. So they're two completely separate entities, okay, and funded in very, very different ways. Now, Explore Inishowen are made up from trade members that actually live in Inishowen, work in Inishowen, have their Inishowen businesses here. And we're tasked with the promotion of Inishowen. But we don't really have a lot of means to be able to do that. We don't really have an incredible amount of funding to be able to do that. And we kind of limp along. So I can see where this call for a merge, is probably an idea emanating from somewhere. And I am on the board of Explore Inishowen, and it kind of took me by surprise to see this in the newspaper. But I'm really glad to see that the county councillors are paying a little bit of attention to tourism in Inishowen. I
don't want to stoke anything, but you were not consulted, or this was not discussed at all? The first you heard about this was
with the board of directors of Explore Inishowen, but we're very open to any suggestions that might be made. For any support that we can actually receive from county councillors or from Donegal County Council or from Donegal Tourism. Now, we do our best to work in partnership with Donegal Tourism, with Fulch Ireland, and we are delighted to see that there is a focus on Inishowen.
Yeah, but what was why was Explore Inishowen formed in the first place? I mean, my presumption would be that it was felt that Inishowen maybe wasn't getting a fair crack of the whip and needed a standalone organisation to try and drive tourism on the peninsula. That would be what I would have guessed to be the reason. Is that the case?
Well, historically speaking, Inishowen would have previously received funding from Pobble, a different organisation that was to do with tourism. They received funding from Pobble, and that organisation was actually disbanded. Now, that money was potentially there for the peninsula. So the history of that is Inishowen Development Partnership worked very, very hard, both Andrew Ward and Sean McClenaghan, to bring together people in the trade to re-establish a new organisation called Inishowen, Explore Inishowen CLG, in order to keep that 100, roughly speaking, 100 grand a year coming into the peninsula to promote the peninsula. So that's where we came from. To kind of ensure that that tranche of funding still came into the peninsula to promote the peninsula. And we're happy to say that we have a brand new brochure. The team have worked incredibly hard. There are over 80 different tourism providers that have bought into this brochure, and we have a fantastic building which is about to be renovated. We received a grant to renovate that building, and those works are imminent. So we're slowly and I suppose stealthily working away in the background around the promotion of Inishowen, and that building will, the works are about to start there imminently. So it'll be a newly refurbished building as well that we're operating out of.
Councillor Johnny McGuinness will be joining us shortly. He's quoted as saying, I think Inishowen tourism needs to be taken over in total, and that includes the funding and the backing. Fighting for crumbs, that is all it has been. It seems Inishowen tourism has never had the funding. I've had many years' experience of this scraping and trying to stick projects together, and the yearly conflict of what could be funded. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think Johnny might be referring to the time that he was involved in tourism, and he was actually the chair of the previous organisation. So he understands the struggles that were there about that organisation. That organisation was then, I suppose, disbanded. It was a complex organisation. It had shareholders, and there were lots of controversy over that organisation. We're absolutely brand new. We are receiving similar funding to what they received previously. However, there are different business proposals that we are examining at the minute that could indeed become quite sustainable for Explore Inishowen. Nicholas Crossan in the newspaper actually mentioned the parking of motorhomes out the back and why we aren't actually receiving revenue from that. And basically it's not ours. We are a community entity where it's not our car park. The council owns a car park, but we have as a board discussed a business sustainability for Explore Inishowen, which includes motorhome traded income. Now, very interestingly, when Nicholas Crossan called for this, we met as a delegation, Donegal Campers Association met as a delegation many years ago, so I'm involved in caravan and camping, and suggested that fees be taken from this motorhome parking. We predicted what was going to come along. So we see a niche there. We see value traded income for Explore Inishowen. And I put together a full business sustainability, because here's the thing, we have to get everything right. It's a fantastic revenue stream for us. I've worked out the figures. If we were to charge €20 a night, we would have 16,500, and that's at a 20%.
So before we...
five spaces.
Is it possible here, as I say, I'm not trying to stir anything, is it possible here, especially considering that I see referenced an awful lot the former company and not Explore Inishowen, is there maybe a slight lack of understanding by some councillors as to precisely what Explore Inishowen is and what it does now?
I think there is the possibility that they need to meet with us and they need to talk with us.
Okay, well, let's bring in Councillor Johnny McGuinness. Good morning to you, Councillor.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm great. Now, obviously, you know, you've raised the issue. Christina is happy for this conversation to be happening. But why did you not speak to Explore Inishowen before effectively calling for it to be disbanded and overhauled at the council meeting?
Oh, I didn't say disbanded, Greg. I have to.
Sorry, amalgamated then? Amalgamated.
Amalgamated.
Yeah.
Well, I was sitting at the Donegal Tourism CLG, of which I'm a member of, and I sat on it previously back in 2015 through to actually 2010 to 2015. And I saw an application coming in for a food festival on behalf of Explore Inishowen, and they didn't get the funding. Actually, the funding application went into the Development Fund Initiative, which is a small bursary of funding that the councillors have to give out to small charities that are based in Inishowen here. And I just thought to myself, this isn't the appropriate place for Explore Inishowen to be looking for funding to put on a very important festival that they were trying to organise. And it just came to me again, and it dawned on me that nothing has really changed here, that the new entity, in which I congratulate Christina and the IDP for putting together, and I wish them all the best and the luck in the future, but I just feel that they haven't got the appropriate funding that they need. And when they're applying to something like the Development Fund Initiative or the Members Fund Initiative for important projects like the one that they had, it's not the appropriate place, to seek funding. And they shouldn't have to seek funding from that body.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, they should get the equal funding like every other part of the county gets through Donegal Tourism. And if that means that there needs to be an amalgamation, then in my opinion, that's what should happen. And I hope that it's not taken up wrong. I wish the best for Inishowen Tourism. I speak to many providers on a weekly basis, and there's just a frustration there that the funding isn't there and the support isn't there.
Okay, let's just...
a very important thing.
Let's just make sure it hasn't been taken up wrong. Christina, do you take the councillor's point there?
Craig, I do take the councillor's point, and I'm going to put this up to all the councillors in Inishowen. What are you doing to support Explore Inishowen and to support tourism in this particular peninsula? You are part of the council. All 9 councillors of Inishowen, what are you doing? There's no good in coming and calling in the paper as to we need this and we need that. What are you actually doing in a practical manner? I mean, if we have failed in our applications to receive funding for something like a food festival, then what are the proposals that the councillors are going to put forward?
Johnny, why do you not assist and help and put down motions and saying this isn't good enough, they should be able to access that and the other? Why not go down that route rather than going into a meeting and saying, effectively, let's get shot of Inishowen Tourism, or as it's called now, Explore Inishowen, and amalgamate it with Donegal Tourism? Is that not sort of jumping about 5 steps ahead and not giving the current people involved the fair support and crack of the whip that they probably deserve?
When I say amalgamate, I'm talking from a funding perspective. And when you become a subsidiary of Donegal Tourism, it doesn't mean the people that are there giving up all their time to organise everything they need.
I'm not sure if this is a direct quote, but you say, I think Inishowen Tourism needs to be taken over in total.
It needs to be funded in total.
Okay.
You're taking it out of context. My wishes are that the current guys, the current Visit Inishowen or Explore Inishowen that is currently trading as, they need the full support of the full budget that goes towards tourism within the peninsula and within the county as a whole. And until such time as they're playing on an equal playing field with the rest of the county and the rest of the country, and it's going to be very hard for them to promote the area to the best of their ability.
Okay, let's bring Christina back in there. Yep.
Yeah,
I will do everything on my power to assist Christina. I'm very happy to assist in any way.
It just seems strange to me that you're saying it now. I would have thought have a meeting beforehand, get their views, find out what needs to be done, and say, I'm here working alongside Explore Inishowen. This is what we have met, and this is what we think, and bring that to the council. That I would have thought that would have been the... but anyway, it's not for me to say. Christina, what did you want to come back there
what
with?
I'm saying is the staff of Explore Inishowen have been beavering away and doing their absolute best, and we've had 2 years of COVID, lockdown, we have minimal funding, etc. We have an unbelievable peninsula. There's an incredible investment coming into the peninsula with Dunree and their recent announcement of their development plans, etc. There's a focus on Inishowen at the minute by Fáilte Ireland, which we never had a focus like it before. We're here. We're exploring Inishowen, we're made up of the trade, we're promoting the trade, all of those things. We want the councillors on board with this as well, and we want to know what you're going to do in order to represent us as the trade and the organisation in Inishowen that's promoting Inishowen.
Okay, last 30 seconds to you, Councillor McGuinness.
I'm happy to meet and put a plan forward and to support you in any which way I can, and I'm sure the other 8 councillors in the Inishowen Peninsula will put their shoulder behind the wheel as well. But we certainly do need Donegal Tourism and central government to fund everything tourism related in Inishowen. We can't be left wanting for the funding necessary to put our best foot forward. And we have the most fantastic area in the country to promote, with the most fantastic providers of insurance, services in the tourism industry, with the most fantastic accommodation, and it's just we've got so much to offer that you couldn't list them all at this moment in time. we need the financial backing of the central government, Donegal Tourism, Falch Ireland, all the stakeholders promoting us in the best foot forward.
You agree with that, Christina?
Can I just add, we are looking at a very exciting time over the next 5 years in Inishowen. And we need all shoulders to the wheel. We need all councillors supporting whatever projects we are.
But do you think finally, just very finally, Explore Inishowen as a standalone body has an important role to play in that, Christina?
An absolutely incredibly important role to play in that. However it is supported. Do you get me?
I get you, okay.
It's not how it's supported. It has a job to do. It's doing its job well.
Okay. And Councillor McGuinness seems to see a future for that as well, didn't you, Johnny? You said that.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. Right, okay.
What I'm saying is Christina and her team needs the financial backing that the rest of the country enjoys. And however we achieve that goal, I'm 100%
Brilliant.
Behind that
okay.
initiative.
And
we'll call for a meeting with all the councillors and we'll see what plans come up in the development and we'll report back to you in a few months' time.
Brilliant, love that. Thank you very much indeed, both of you. I really appreciate that. 086 60 25,000. Back after the news at 10, delayed by a minute. My apologies.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. President Putin has given orders to blockade the last remaining Ukrainian-held area of Mariupol, deciding not to storm it. Russia's defence minister says there are around 2,000 Ukrainian troops at a steel plant, which has become the last stand for Kyiv's forces in the area. Earlier, a top ally of Vladimir Putin claimed Moscow's military would seize the city in the southeast of Ukraine today. Yuri Sak, the spokesperson for Ukraine's Ministry of Defence, says the Russian offensive is becoming more vicious by the day.
Right, they are using cluster ammunitions, they are using prohibited bombs, they're throwing them at not just at our military, but also at residential areas. So from this perspective, we understand that since Russians apparently are desperate to get some military success before the May 9, which will be the so-called Victory Day.
A man who suffered head injuries in an assault in Sligo has died. The man, who was aged in his late 30s, was attacked on Rockwood Parade area of the town on Tuesday evening. He was initially treated at Sligo Hospital but was then transferred to Beaumont in Dublin, where he was later pronounced dead. Gardaí are treating his death as suspicious and a post-mortem will be carried out later today. The PRO of the Mica Action Group says the possibility of the Mica redress scheme being extended to other parts of the country is not surprising. Donegal has been deemed the epicentre of the crisis. However, the Irish Times quotes an unpublished report from the expert group investigating Mica that states engineers are reporting similar issues in other counties. PRO Michael Doherty says there's an onus on TDs nationwide to rally behind the issue to get the best possible scheme over the line.
Other TDs in other counties that thought they were immune from all this need to wake up and smell the coffee, need to get the shoulder to the wheel and get the best possible scheme we can over the line, because this is not just a scheme for Donegal, this is a scheme for every affected county, and by the time we're finished we just don't know where that ends. So now is the time to make their presence felt and not just ignore Donegal, who have done all the heavy lifting so far, I might add, but it's time they put the shoulder to the wheel.
Gardaí took Sean Quinn's phone, diary and boxes of items from his home in County Cavan yesterday. Officers carried out a search of the former billionaire's property in Ballyconnell. It was part of an investigation into alleged criminal activity in the border region, but no arrests were made. Kieran Flaherty from the Impartial Reporter in County Fermanagh says the precise details are unclear.
Sean Quinn himself has came out and said that he wasn't sure what the search was about and he wasn't given any really straight answers when he spoke to the BBC yesterday afternoon. He called it a fishing expedition. So there is no real further information from him on what happened, but we do know that they took away his phone, some books and a lot of other things from the house as part of that search.
The Cabinet has approved plans for stalking to become a standalone criminal offence with a prison sentence of up to 10 years. The legislation is expected to pass the Dáil and Seanad by the end of the year. Justice Minister Helen McEntee brought a memo to Cabinet yesterday which was backed by other ministers. Fianna Fáil Senator Lisa Chambers says the crime will be severely punished.
Currently, if you are stalked in this country, you can only get justice through the current harassment laws. So it will make stalking a standalone offence. Punishment will be up to 10 years in prison, which is a significant sentence. And what we have seen from other jurisdictions, so England, Wales and Scotland have legislated for stalking more than a decade ago. There was a very real and direct impact from that legislation. There was a trebling of reporting of stalking offences.
And the Donegal ETB and Uachtaráis na Gaeltachta have signed a 5-year memorandum of understanding. It's set to build on a history of collaboration and an established partnership between the two organisations. Michaela Clark has more.
The aims of the partnership are consistent with the strategic plans and strategic statements of both organisations. These include working together to provide opportunities for training and education through the GTech network and the network of Donegal ETB FET centres, promoting and supporting economic development and job creation. It also includes working collaboratively on projects of mutual interest, which will benefit the community in Donegal, promoting and facilitating opportunities for community education at local level, encouraging and empowering communities and individuals, and providing them with the knowledge and skills to benefit from the county's natural resources, and working with the Gaeltacht companies to ensure that the workforce has the necessary skills to sustain and grow, and working together to provide the Gaeltacht community with apprenticeships. A strategic planning group will be established and will meet quarterly to discuss the operation and strategic development of the partnership over the next 5 years.
Weather now. Today will be mostly dry with hazy sunny spells developing and temperatures of 13 to 16 degrees. We're back with the headlines at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for Thursday morning, the 21st of April. The death has taken place of Francis McGuinness, late of Tara, Greencastle Road, Moville. Funeral arrangements to be confirmed later. The death has occurred of William James, Jim Johnson, number 3, Rymahi Heights, Manor Cunningham. Jim will be reposing at his late residence, number 3, Rymahi Heights, Manor Cunningham, from 11 o'clock this morning. The wake is private pleas to family and close friends and private on the morning of the funeral. Funeral service at his late residence tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 with burial afterwards in Gortley Cemetery, Letterkenny. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu if desired, to the Donegal Hospice, Letterkenny, care of any family member, or Kelly's Funeral Directors, Oakfield, Rafoe. The death has taken place of James McNulty, Meanmore, Dunlow, and formerly of Ruski Creasla. His remains are reposing at the Community Group Home in Meanmore. Removal this evening at 5 o'clock, going to St Michael's Church, Creasla, for 6 o'clock, where he will repose overnight. Funeral mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock with interment afterwards in the local cemetery. The death has taken place of Tessie McDade, Nee Hegarty, Clonglash, Buncrana, and formerly Kinnigo, Ballymcgann. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15, going to St Mary's Church, Cockhill, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass. Burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Family, neighbours and friends welcome. Family flowers only please. Donations if desired to the Irish Cancer Society and Sight Savers, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Annie Teresa McGranahan, Nee Morris, 20 Kavanagh View, Ballymagorry, Strabane. Reposing at her home. Funeral leaving her home tomorrow morning at 9:20 for Requiem Mass in the Sacred Heart Church, Derry Road, at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to Mary Curie, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of Junior Armour, 34, Castle Park, Buncrana. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral leaving there at 10:15 this morning, going to St Mary's Church, Cockhill, for 11 o'clock requiem mass with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only, please. The death has occurred of Stefan Varga and Clohan Beg, Clohan Donegal and Lusnek, Slovakia. Stefan's remains are reposing at the Church of Our Lady of Perpetual Succour, Glenfin. Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock with removal to Lakelands Crematorium for private cremation. The Requiem Mass can be viewed on the parish webcam. And the death has taken place of Jim Shields, 17, Ardcolumkill, Letterkenny. Jim's remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards in New Lake Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers, if desired, to Good New Charity, care of any family member. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Okay, so coming up,
all the stories that matter across the Northwest. It's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Oh, apologies, I jumped the gun there. Coming up later on in the programme, we'll be joined by Senator Lisa Chambers talking about the first Women's Health Conference. Dr. Joe Kelly's going to be joining us too, talking history. We're going to be focusing on Red Hugh O'Donnell during our conversation. We've some news for you on Tinder swindler scams. That should be an interesting item. And also Paul McLaughlin is in studio with us answering your gardening questions. So if you do have a question about your garden, maybe we can almost start looking towards the turning from spring into summer. We had frost there a couple of nights ago, so those keen on gardening would have had to have been careful, I'm sure. But anyway, any questions for Paul, get them into us now. 086 60 25,000. If you want to join in the conversation with your comments on our history talk with Red Hugh O'Donnell, get in touch with us on that as well, and anything else you'd like to speak to us about. A caller says there's no reason why a small group from Inishowen can't get funding for projects from central government. There's no need for it to be forced to be taken over by a larger group to seek funding. This could be a power grab. I could be corrected. Lorry broken down on McGrory's Brae on the main road from Ballabafay to Donegal. It's sitting on a hill in a dangerous position, a warning to drivers to be cautious. And I would say, particularly if you're listening to us coming from the Donegal town direction, people can come across the top of that hill at quite a rate of knots. So just be cautious there. You're talking effectively single lane or 1.5 lanes just on a really dangerous stretch of road there, both coming up it and going down it. So if you're on the road, please take note. Jared says is working in tourism and is shown. He leases one of the remaining thatched cottages. There's no communication from councillors. He's heard this news in the media. There's no communication. This is something that should have been discussed with people directly, perhaps before raising it, rather than sort of committing to support and meet after the fact. But anyway, look, as long as they get there in the end and it's whatever's best for Inishowen, isn't that all that matters, rather than maybe the personality side of it. Right, okay, good luck if you are playing the bingo today. It is jackpot day. I would love one of you to collect a nice pocket of cash heading into the weekend. Here are the numbers.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 21st of April, Jackpot Day. You're playing on a pink coloured sheet. The reference number is S19. It's game number 16. Today's jackpot number is 31. Today's jackpot is €6,200. Today's numbers are 16, 89, 74, 24, 57, 32, 39, 30, 33, and the number 3. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 p.m. tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. Get all your NCBI Radio Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
For all your health and beauty needs, you can always rely on McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. If you need a prescription, just call or order online at mcgees.ie and it will be ready for you in advance before you arrive. For beauty and skin care, there's all the big names at great prices in store and online. And for your photo printing needs, simply download the McGee's Photo Prints app or click on the website link. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, for all your health and beauty needs, and so much more. Call 91-21409 or visit mcgees.ie.
Are you a landowner in the River Derg area? Do you want to find out who can provide agricultural services such as weed wiping, for rush control and riverside fencing? The Source to Tap project is holding a free agricultural contract fair near Collegiate Castle Derg at St Davog's GAA Club, Ahiarn on Thursday the 28th of April from 11 to 4 p.m. Come along to meet local contractors and find out what services they can offer to help improve your farm business and make your farm water friendly. The Source to Tap project is supported by the European Union's Interreg 5A programme.
Every year, about 2,800 people in Ireland get bowel cancer. Bowel screening helps find signs of cancer before symptoms start. If you're aged 60 to 69, you can register today for a free bowel screen test kit. Once you've taken the test at home, return it by free post and we'll test your sample for levels of blood. If you need any more tests, we'll let you know. Register today at hse.ie/bowel screen or free phone 1-800 45 45 55 from the HSE.
I'm Rachel, a cancer survivor, letting you know that Relay for Life takes place on Saturday and Sunday, 28th and 29th of May this year. Why not get behind a participating team or come along to the event at the ATU campus in Letterkenny? See Facebook or contact Relay for Life Donegal at gmail.com for more information. Relay for Life, celebrating cancer survivors and supporting the fight against cancer.
This ad is kindly sponsored by Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny.
Now, Raphoe Castle is one of the more important castles, I suppose, or buildings in this county that needs preservation, and some good news in that regard, which Mary Hart, Chair of the Raphoe Community in Action Group, will share with us now. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, how are you? Sorry. Good, thank you.
I'm doing fine. Right, okay, so eight successful applications into the Department of Heritage Community Monuments Fund and some funding for Raphoe Castle. Tell us a wee bit about this castle. It's back to the 17th century we have to go, isn't it?
Yes, it was built around the year 1637 by the then Bishop John Leslie, who was formerly Bishop of the Isles, and the King granted him, under the plantation of Ulster, the lands of the diocese of Raphoe, so he became the Bishop of the Church of Ireland Diocese of Raphoe, and he had been a militiaman himself before he became a clergyman. So he had been on the continent and saw many castles, so he decided that he would like to have a grand fortified house like that himself. So for that reason, he set about, with local people, obviously building it, to replicate a grand fortified dwelling for himself. Now, that's not to say he just wanted a big posh house. He did need a defensive base for himself, because, as you can imagine, there was always that threat, from the various I suppose the Catholics and the Protestant kings had great war going on at that time. So that's basically the background when it was built. It didn't take terribly long to build it. And then it had somewhat a checkered history from then onwards, because it had been attacked many times, but it was attacked by the Cromwellians, it was attacked by the Jacobites, it was attacked by the Confederates, and then eventually attacked by the United Irishmen over its 200 years, and then it burned down sometime in the 1800s by an accidental fire. A turf sod fell out onto the wooden floor and burned the place down. So after that, it was never restored. So it's been sitting there more or less crumbling. Very
And time,
slowly, but
of course,
nevertheless.
time will take its toll. It can't. I mean, it's one of. There's not many castles in this country, so it's very important for that reason and for the others that you've been outlining. It's not going to be restored, I presume. So is this to slow, the impacts of time to retain what is there for future generations? Is that the plan?
Yeah, well, the plan, this is the first time that the Department of Heritage have issued grant aid for 100%, but it has to come from the community. So they're for community initiatives and community monuments. Now, that's not to say the community own the monument. Like doing Fort, many castles, many monuments are on private property. So the funding at this stage is for a conservation management plan. And that means a company from Dublin, Howley, Hayes and Cooney, who are experts in conservation planning, they will come and do an assessment of what is needed and how best to save the four walls, because it's one of the few castles in Ireland that does still have its four walls standing, that it's not a complete ruin and with just some of the elements of it left. So that will be a reasonably big undertaking, but it will not be invasive. So there won't be any structural work carried out. It will basically be, telescopic cameras. There will be an archaeologist to assess if there's any archaeological evidence of other things there, which, there are suggestions that there was a round tower there. So this may be the chance to determine whether that is the case or not, that was there before the castle. Nobody knows whether that's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll be an environmentalist with them as well. So they'll, let us know if there's, rare plants, because there was a walled garden attached to the castle. We don't know what evidence there is for things like that, and also, the wildlife that might be there as well.
I mean, it's going to uncover, even in this process, before any work is really done, sort of, in terms of physical work, it's going to further uncover the history. This is going to be a lot learned through this process, one would hope.
Yes, there will, because they'll be able to look at the various layers of building that went on, because while I said John Leslie, who actually went on then to build Castle Leslie, so it's the same bishop, and his building was not what you see today.
Mm-hmm.
It has been added to by various other bishops who came to live there, and some of them put, the machicolations at the top and the gun loops. So, it is various layers of building. So it will tell us, I suppose it'll tell us a lot about the building style and the how expert they were, which they were obviously, because it's sitting there for 200 years with no cement.
And what do you think the future holds? I'm not sure. Is there any safe public access at the moment? It sounds like not, but could that be a feature of the future, I wonder?
Well, that would be the aspiration. The castle is not safe, first of all. So anyone going near it, first of all, they're on private land, so that there is no access to the castle through private land. That's not to say, people do sneak in, and if something falls on top of them, then, that's going to be a serious issue. So what we would like to see down the road is that once the building, which will be an enormous amount of money to do, once it is made safe and restored to a point at which it can be appreciated, then we look at how that can evolve into something like maybe Mallow Castle in County Cork, or Carlingford Castle in County Louth, which have access at points.
Well, that's a conversation for another day, obviously, because it would require the cooperation of others. So, Mary, just finally, or in case you can add anything you wish to as well, there would come a point, though, whereby sort of a cost-benefit analysis would have to be done. I mean, we can't say it's guaranteed, can we, that the money will be forthcoming to, retain what is there, to shore it up, to make it safe either. I mean, it sounds like it could be very, very expensive. Or does this allocation of funding mean that we can sort of maybe optimistically hope for that to happen?
Optimistically hope for that to happen. It's a case of you can't pay lip service to heritage and not, put money on the table as far as the government is concerned. So what we would like to see, and there are a lot of stakeholders in this. There would be the community, there will be the various heritage bodies, there will be the tourism bodies, And the archaeologists around Ireland who would be looking at the various castles. This is a great opportunity, and it would be a shame if it were not to move forward to secure the building, which is basically the hope that that's what will happen, that it will be protected, that it will be made safe, and that that the government and others, obviously the government may not put up the 100%, which is highly unlikely. So we will start looking to see then where and how we can find funding from other quarters to do that. It's just going to add to the whole East Donegal, the tourism element of East Donegal, and since social media has been invented, there's an awful lot of people doing drone shots of the castle, and then that has prompted people saying, oh, why do we not get into this castle? And it opens a whole new argument, which, to be honest, there's lots and lots of wonderful monuments in Ireland, and they're not all, open to the public. So what we would like, that there is a point at which people can appreciate this, and that it would be saved for future generations. That's the importance. It's an important landmark in East Donegal, but also in Donegal itself.
Okay, listen, Mary, lovely to chat to you. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
All right, the best.
Have
Thank
a lovely
you.
one.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye. That's Mary Hart, Chair of the Rafo Community in Action organisation. Okay, here is a reminder of the brilliant competition we have running on the programme this week in association with our friends at Florit.
To celebrate 5 years in business, Florit Letterkenny are giving one lucky listener the opportunity to win a €500 in-store voucher. To enter, answer the following question. How many years has Florit been in business? Text HI followed by your name and answer to 53131. From Northern Ireland, text 84555. Texts cost 30 cents or the sterling equivalent. The operator's network charge may apply. Lines will close on Friday the 22nd of April 2022. And the winner will be announced on the 9 till noon show on Friday the 22nd of April 2022.
COVID-19 can still cause serious illness, especially in people at higher risk. We need to keep protecting each other. So stay home if you have symptoms. Wear a mask in healthcare settings, public transport, and busy places. Let fresh air in if you're meeting indoors. Keep hands clean. And get a COVID-19 vaccine and booster. Let's keep looking out for each other. From the HSE, for us all.
Shed costs soar by over 50%. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
With the rapid price rise in building materials, we look at the costs of building a farm shed this year. Find out if solar panels are right for your farm and how long they could take to repay. Investigation launched into Kerry Milk Bonus payout, and TB numbers fall for the first time since 2016.
Plus, we have a special health and fitness focus in Irish country living. Only inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The Michael English Celebration Tour comes to the Millennium Forum Derry on Wednesday, May 11th. Come and join Michael and his super band for a spectacular musical extravaganza. A brand new tour, his best yet. Celebrate once again with a night of non-stop sing-along favourites, covering all his hits and more. It's a show you simply won't want to miss. For more, see millenniumforum.co.uk or michaelenglish.ie.
Get your weekly shop at M&S. Check out remarkable value with over 100 everyday products at really surprising prices, like pasta for just 50 cents, or fresh market specials, seasonal veg, all at 50 cents. Plus, we've lowered the prices on the products we know you love to buy, from our traceable lean Irish minced beef to rich tea biscuits. So pop in today and enjoy great quality at prices you love, with all these ways to save at M&S Food. Subject to availability, see in store for details.
Okay, 086 60 25,000, your WhatsApp and text number. Greg, did you know that the UK only have 10% of the castles Ireland has? As there was a three-pot show on TV3 once, and similarly a show on UK TV from the same company, so I emailed them, and that's what they told me, as I assumed from Arthurian legend, UK had more. Kevin from Dunlow. Interesting. I didn't think we had that many. would have thought that Britain has more, but I take your word for it, Kevin. Right, could you please play a request for Ivan Black to wish a happy birthday from Auntie Rita? More than happy to do so. All right, let's take a break for some music.
You said you hated the ocean, but you're surfing now. I said I love you for life, but
Okay, that is Camilla, Cabello and Ed Sheeran. There'll be thousands of people. I'm not sure thousands from Donegal, but certainly two loads heading into Croke Park Saturday and Sunday night for the concert. The two of them are at it, I believe. Well, certainly Ed Sheeran is. A caller says, our family's been notified by a local school that due to the rise in the numbers in schools with the Ukrainian crisis, there may not be space for their children to begin school this year. Resources were promised, like teachers, so more children can attend school. This came about with the registration day approaching. My question is, how are the councillors going to ensure that every child can get an education, as my fears are that this will happen across the country? Well, no disrespect to the councillors, I don't think they've really any hand active part in that. Maybe your TDs might be able to lobby the education minister, who can instruct her department. I don't know, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with. There's just no doubt about that. And also, of course, I don't think we're too far away, are we, from parents and guardians having to register children for school bus runs and what have you. Are we going to be going through the annual hassle with that this year, as we do seemingly every single year? We'll have to wait and see. All right, history conversation with Joe is on the way after this break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
For a great early season lawnmower deal, visit Gartley Sales and Hire, exclusive stockists of Stiga in the Northwest. Mowers, trimmers and hedge trimmers. Full trade-in service available at Gartley Sales and Hire, Gartley, Letterkenny. Call 9126276.
Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny now has even longer opening hours. Try Kelly's Early Bird Breakfast, one of their great lunch specials, or a renowned Jake's Burger. Kelly's famous steak specials are available every Saturday from 3, with an 8-ounce succulent steak and all the trimmings for just €11. New extended opening hours now in Kelly's award-winning diner at Mountaintop, Letterkenny. Check out Facebook for details.
Walk the line once again with the multi-award-winning Johnny Cash and June Carter tribute show, Cash Returns. Celebrate the music of the Man in Black at the Ballard Arts Centre Ballybuffet on Saturday 23rd of April. Limited tickets are available now at the box office. That's Cash Returns live at the Ballard Arts Centre Ballybuffet, Saturday 23rd of April.
Milford Tiles, Wood Flooring and Bathware, Milford Retail Park, now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New Bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, Wood Flooring and Bathware. 083 091 0707.
The CFC Interiors stock disposal sale is now on. Due to overstock, an incredible £1.5 million worth of stock must go. Don't miss our highest ever stock discount on selected ranges across all departments. The stock disposal sale at CFC Interiors, Derry, Cookstown and Abbey Centre.
You might think you know Ireland's hidden heartlands, but maybe it's time for a closer look. Take the helm and cruise along the sparkling waters of the mighty Shannon. Or make memories bathed in moonlight as you kayak on Loch Derg. Feel the buzz of breathtaking electric bike trails that twist through Leitrim. Or scale Ireland's largest inflatable water park at Baysports in Athlone. Ireland's hidden heartlands, yours to explore. Keep discovering at discoverireland.ie.
Okay, now we're going to recall some history with historian Dr. Joe Kelly. Good morning, Magine White. Dr. Joe, how are you today?
Good, mighty good here and your luck based at your listeners there in Highland Radio.
It's good to have you on board. I think, everyone knows the name Red Hugh O'Donnell. That's who our focus is going to be on today. But I wonder, if we were asked if it was Mastermind, how many of us would be able to answer even some of the more simpler questions. Just give us a brief overview of when he roamed the land and a wee bit about him, Joe, to get going.
Well, look, Donegal is connected with Donegal, and we have football clubs, Irua Ballyshannon, then we have the other Irua club, and then we have statues. So he's quite well known as a name, but who is he and what did he do? I think with the passing of years and times, a lot of that has been lost, unfortunately, and maybe particularly with our younger children growing up, maybe the folklore and the stories haven't captured their mind as much because maybe it's not been told. But it goes back to 1572 when he was born, and he had a short life. He only lived to be 29. Very interesting life. His story, if you were to make a film, and there has been a film made of it very poorly, mind you, kind of a Walt Disney, The Fighting Prince of Tyrconnell, but again, it had captured the minds of Hollywood in America. But there's heroism in it, there's valor in it, there's struggle in it, there's fighting the enemy, all that is in it, and yet heroism and all that. He embodied so much. As a young man and what he set out to achieve at a time when we were beginning to be absolutely controlled by British colonialism, and that basically it was Irua, you could say, was the last man standing that really was able to battle Queen Elizabeth. And then after that, we know what's happened with our own history with the plantation of Ulster and subsequently. So he was very, very significant as an individual. And a very inspiring man, might I add.
Okay, so as we move forward with the conversation then, Joe, how much are you going to be telling us that is factual? In other words, that it's documented, that we can trust, and how much will be conversation that's been passed down through the generations, would you say?
Oh, well, we're very, very fortunate that there was a life. Baha Irua O'Donnell was written shortly after his death, sometime around 1616, by Louis O'Clery, who would have known him. And he subsequently got about 960 acres in Kilmacrennan and around that area. And he wrote a life and dated it and it basically detailed the 9 Years' War. It detailed everything he did, his military strategy, his successes. A very, very interesting life. And in fact, the life really lay unknown for almost up until the 1890s. And then it was published. It's lying in the Royal Irish Academy, the manuscript. It was put into redacted and put into the Annals of the Four Masters, took information out of it. But it wasn't until the Reverend Dennis Murphy in 1895 did an English version of it that it became more widely known. And then again, later on, a Father Paul Walsh, I think he was a priest as well, he wrote Baha Iru O'Gonal. And again, these are available from the Royal Irish Academy. Paid 40 or 50 euro for, but it's an unbelievable book. And I would love if it was abbreviated in some way and given to our national school children to read.
Yeah.
It is full of stories, of stuff that would inspire our young people to be the hero that he was in many ways, and the great virtues and values that he had.
And it just goes to show the importance of people, exploring history, writing about history in the first instance, but exploring it and having an interest and bringing it to the masses as much as is done so. And there's people doing that right now, and you're among them, I'm sure, Dr. Kelly. Do you know what I mean? It's not maybe the importance of certain work doesn't seem as important right now. But look, what we're about to discuss is based off the back of one person discovering something and feeling that it was of public interest.
Well, Martin Luther says we don't make history, we are defined by history, Martin Luther King. And like your just previous interview there and was about the castle and Castle Leslie and so forth. Like, we live in history and history shapes us. But look, that maybe is for another day. But certainly Hugh O'Donnell is someone that Donegal people can be very proud of. And, when the national anthem was being decided, and maybe it will be redecided in the United Ireland, the O'Donnell Abu, I think the marching sound is absolutely fabulous. And when Donegal go out onto the football field, you'll see it with the Sunday game. It brings back that whole passion, that whole fight, that whole spirit. And like these men are going out on the field to battle for football, but really it brings back the whole history maybe of the 9 Years' War in 1593 to 1603. Actually, it was 10 years, but it was called the 9 Years' War. Yeah.
Okay, a stickler for detail, right? So, talk to us about Red Hugh's family. What he was born into his early life.
Well, look, he was born into royalty. His father was Hugh O'Donnell, and then his mother was Enid Dhu. We talked before about her, and she was one of the McDonalds. She was known as Fiona McDonald, but Enid Dhu. She was a very wise, shrewd woman, and really she was the woman that made him who he was. We maybe talk about that in a while, but he was born into that. But the father had sent him for fosterage, and that was the system they had at the time to create alliances that they would send their son to another lord to be reared, and then over time then those families would be joined in military strength and loyal to each other. And it was as part of that, he was with the McSweeneys up around your part of the world, Greg. Killybegs up in that direction, the Sweeneys were up there. There was a number of Sweeney clans, but one of the things that they did, they would have gone to pilgrimage to the Carmelite monastery in Rathmullen, dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary, and this would have been maybe an annual thing. And so he was in fosterage, and so he went with them, and the Gallaghers of Ballyshannon was a kind of a big family clan gathering. So while they were there, a Spanish ship, and people would know this, supposedly came with wine, and it wasn't a Spanish ship at all, it was an English ship. They took in some wine on shore and said, look, if you want more, come out onto the boat. And basically that was the way they captured Irua. Once they knew they had him on board.
What age would he have been at that point?
15.
So he was kidnapped as leverage then, presumably.
Oh yes, but it wasn't even that. They were so afraid. See, there was prophecies and everything about this young man that was coming, Irua, and they were so afraid of him. And at the time, the English had not captured Donegal. They had tried to control every other county but Donegal. And you wonder then why we vote no to referenda. And one thing, we were kind of
we're still connected to our history. So sorry, it's fascinating. So the capture of Red Hugh O'Donnell was preemptive, really, to get in there before what they thought he would become.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
and
fascinating.
exactly. And the fear was that he would unite with the O'Neills, who they were trying to placate as well. And Matthew would have been Hugh O'Neill's son, was sent to be reared in England, would have learned the English system, was reared by Elizabeth. He was to go back and he'd be a good, loyal British subject. But when Hugh O'Donnell, as we know, he went to Dublin Castle, he was held captive there. He tried to escape. And in fairness, Hugh O'Neill tried to use bribes and other ways of having him released. They even sent 30 of the Spanish, we talked about the Spanish Armada, 30 of the Spanish sailors to Dublin Castle in the hope that this would be a trade-off, but no. And he tried to...
Just before we get to that, because we did talk about this. This is around the same time. So presumably the Spanish sailors who were seeking refuge in Donegal, who made their way to shore after the sinking of their ships, or if they were able to sail them in, they weren't hostiles. They were brought in. They would have been brought in. Would they have and fed and watered? And as we know, we talked about how some of them maybe stayed around the place. Were they turned on? Like they were then taken to Dublin against their will to be used, or potentially to be used as a bargaining chip for Red Hugh O'Donnell's release?
Generally, Donegal, as in the Donegal owned areas, Tyrone is Tyrone. Inishowen, some of O'Donnell's land would have, and O'Neill's land wouldn't be, as we know, as the county today of Donegal. And O'Neill had handed them over. Now, in relation to Donegal, most of the Spanish sailors that arrived in Donegal were safe. Most of the sailors that arrived in Sligo were slaughtered. So the English didn't know were they going to regroup the Spanish Armada? Was it going to be another attack? And at the time, O'Neill was in good standing with the British and wanted to stay on the right side, didn't want to be attacked. You've got to remember that the population of Ulster would have been very small. The population of Donegal and Tyrone would have been small, and the available manhood would have been small. And so when the English did eventually send about 20,000 men, like Donegal and Tyrone didn't have that kind
overrun.
of yeah. So they were playing politics. Yes, unfortunately, some of the Spaniards, they were sent to Dublin Castle and they were all beheaded or hung. They were all executed. But Red Hugh made an attempt to escape. He failed the first time. And then in the same year of 1591, in the Christmas of that year, he did escape. And he went out into the Wicklow Mountains, but unfortunately, some of the men that were with him, they didn't fare out too well. Art O'Neill, I think he died, and another man that was with him survived. But Red Hugh lost both his big toes because of frostbite. He nearly died himself. They were poorly clad and hadn't the proper attire for the frost that came those nights when they were in the forest. But look, he was rescued.
Well, presumably this added to his reputation at the time, did it? That, this person incarcerated manages to escape. Not everyone made it, battling frost, but still managed to.
Yeah.
You can just see how it's. You can just see how the legend grows.
And there's no doubt about that. And even like Columcille had prophesied the arrival of this man, and that there would be 9 years, and that he would ruin all the kingdoms around, as in England and the British. So the British were aware of this, and now he escapes. And even with all this hardship of his youth, he was only a young man, 17, very, very young. He'd survived the frost, and he comes back to Donegal, and his mother, and this is what we talked about at the beginning, kind of set it up that he would now become the chieftain. His father had become senile, and it was during that time that the English had run havoc in Ireland, or in Donegal. They had controlled Donegal. They had gone in and pillaged the place from time to time, and there was no really big defence put up because Hugh's father wasn't a mentis compass. He wasn't in fit mind. So she arranged that he would be inaugurated in doing well in May 1592, and he was made the chieftain of the O'Donnells.
How would that have been received, though? Because he would have been out of the scene for some while, a young person, missed out maybe on a lot of the formative years for this type of a role. Did people buy it, or were they going, well, this is not the right man for the right job at this time?
Well, three things maybe. Number one was the prophecies that were there, that were weighted, which would have played on people's minds. The second thing was that he had endured so much and had come through it. And his mother had, so to speak, made sure that she was setting the stage for him if he were to return. And then finally himself, he seemed to have been a smart, capable young man. Even in his very young years, he had gone into war with his father and had proved himself to be a very tactically smart individual. Very interesting, when he was inaugurated. Suffering has hardened my heart and illuminated my mind. This is what he said. The snows of Cheercullen, this is what you'd said when he was in Wicklow, may have damaged my feet, but not damaged my understanding. And he said, there is light in my mind and there's fire in my blood. He spoke very heroic and patriotic, vibrant language. And he talked about the true God and that he knew who his enemies were. And that he was a true Gael. So there was a fighting spirit within him. And almost immediately, when he took control, he went to around Rossnowl and he told the English, basically, I'm coming back tomorrow with my army, be gone. Don't take anything that you didn't bring into the county away, because if you do, I'm going to pursue you. And when he came back the next day, they were gone.
And how big would his army likely have been? And how would they travel, for example, as well? And from where?
By foot. He would have gathered probably the manhood that was available to him around Donegal, as in Donegal town, that area. But again, there would have been, and we'll see this maybe later, that there were the gallow glasses. Like Milford is known as Bala and Gallogla. Gal is foreigner, and Ogla means young person, the town of the young foreigners. The idea that Scottish mercenaries who were connected with the O'Neills and the O'Donnells would have come across to help them to fight. Because, as I said earlier, the manhood of Donegal and Tyrone wouldn't have been sufficient. And these were always available. And when they needed them to fight, they would come and then they would go away again and then they would come back again. So this was the way. And Ian Dhu, having that connection with Scotland, obviously was an excellent arsenal for him to be able to use in times of crisis and when he needed more men. But look, he started out and he basically had the idea of expansion and to root the English. And he started out from Donegal and he moved right down into Clare almost in the space
So when he cleared Rossnala out, were people rehoused in the properties they left behind them? And did anyone ever come back to try and sort of reclaim what was left behind?
I think that it was more that the British were trying to control, or I shouldn't say the British, the English were trying to control with an army and a base. It wasn't so much that they were trying to control the people or take their houses or any of that.
It was a location.
A military location.
Yeah, I get you.
So then they went back to Sligo, and that put pressure then on Enniskillen and the areas then further down, because the English then had become more concentrated in their efforts further out of Donegal. And so for that reason then O'Donnell was quite willing to aid other lords in the area in Connacht and said, look, I'm here for you and I'm going to help you. And he tried to unite them. And he began an expansionary move in 1595 and he made raids on English castles and Roscommon and Longford. He captured 13 British castles or strongholds in Connacht. I mean, this is logged again in his Baha and his life by Louis O'Clery. And maybe it's hard to quantify, but like we talk about Michael Collins, and he was only in 28 or so. He was a very, very young man as well. Irua was 19, but his success, considering the limited resources he had, the limited army he had, are comparable to what Michael Collins achieved. Yeah. You know, and he is of that labor or that level and that mindset. His shrewdness,
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's clear tactical issues. I mean, he wouldn't be making these decisions on his own either. Presumably, he would have had counsel. And I'm not in any way trying to take away from what we've seen as his achievements, but it wouldn't be like a solo run, presumably.
I'm sure he had the support and the help of others and probably the advice, but tactically, I think a lot of it would have been down to himself. Right. Like he was smart. He used to he would send in some horsemen into the British army to entice them then, and then he would retreat, by the way, and they would follow in the retreat. And in the retreat then he would ambush them from behind and ambush them on the front, and they were caught both ways. He would surround castles, send in 2 or 3 men just for a chase.
Yes.
And they would then send men out, and then he would go back in and capture the castle. He had all these little tactics.
Right, okay.
And like, there's no question about some of the battles that he won. You know, the Battle of the Curlew Pass, that big statue, or have you ever seen it going into Boyle, of Irua on top of the horse? Like, that was one of the, you know, tactically smartest battles ever, the way he succeeded in drawing the English, thinking that they were safe and that they weren't. And he also had other battles as well, where the Yellow Ford, probably in 1598, was probably the greatest victory, and it was probably the victory that the English suffered most in all their times in Irish history, was the Battle of the Yellow Ford. He was outnumbered, and yet he knew how to use the mountains and the landscape, and he knew how to attack and withdraw and retreat and regroup, and it was amazing. It's
unbelievable what he was able to achieve at such a young age, and I would say probably long after that there were those that looked at the tactics he employed and probably employed them in a modern context. Truly fascinating stuff. This is all happening too while he's still in his 20s, and unfortunately he didn't make his 30s. Was he a success throughout the remainder of his life then, or was he seen as such, or was there any downfall of his, and if so, what was it?
Unfortunately, like many true heroes of our history, they never got to live in old age. You know, I think of Michael Collins, we mentioned Patrick Pearse. Think of any of the great heroes, they never get to live to their old age, and maybe that's the curse of being such an endowed person with so many gifts. He'd hoped for Spanish help, and they had been in touch with Spain, Philip II, who was the king who had sent the Armada, and he'd constantly been in touch. And in fairness to Philip II, he had sent a bishop to Irua and to Hugh O'Neill as well, to tell them to hold out and that he would send an army. In the meantime, they were letting on to the English that they were going to negotiate and have peace, and they were trying to drag this out. But the English soon realised that, look, this was a tactic for time. And the Spanish, he sent a number of messengers, but Philip died in 1598. And then it was Philip III, his son, that succeeded. And they did send an army, we all know, in 1601, the Battle of Kinsale. Hugh O'Neill at this stage, or Hugh O'Donnell, sorry, at this stage,
yes,
had been down in Connacht. Hugh O'Neill went down through Ulster, down into the Midlands, and down to Kinsale. But unfortunately, the British knew that they were coming and were waiting for them. Had sent their army. And in the meantime, Dowra had the British general had arrived in Derry with 4,000 army, and true to Irish history, Niall Gareth O'Donnell, who was a cousin of Iru O'Donnell's, betrayed him and joined the British. And while Hugh was out of the county, Niall Gareth, who actually was married to Hugh's sister, she left him after this. He then, so to speak, came from Derry, Lifford, right into Donegal, and through Barnes, into Donegal town, and basically disinherited or undid all E's work while he was down in Connacht. And at this stage, the battle happened. He realised he couldn't win the battle, and he had nowhere to go back to. So he decided to go to Spain in the hope of getting an army. So this was the spirit he had, that he would get. And
just in the last 2 minutes, how did he die?
Some say that there was a Blake involved in poisoning him, but recent research would show that it was intestine infection. He had a fever, and he died from that at a very, very young age, 29.
Yeah.
And he got given a full royal burial, in fairness. And where he was buried was the capital of Spain at the time, and the King Philip gave him all the proper dignified burial, and he was buried in a Franciscan convent there, where they believe actually Christopher Columbus was built. That's Valladolid. It's just north of Madrid today. And
well, a listener says they saw a bridge in Madrid heading for the airport called O'Donnell Bridge.
Yeah,
a coincidence or likely to be connected?
Oh, probably true. Yeah. Again, we talk about tourism there. There's so much we could do, particularly with the Spanish Armada, the O'Donnells, that whole connection. And they were excavating the Bank Santander there in Spain when they found the old monastery and they found some of the bodies, and they're looking for actually Emus. Yeah, because
you always say that you see, this is the problem. We could go for hours. You say something so interesting just as we have to wrap it up, but that's fascinating.
He's toes, so he's easy enough to identify.
Yes.
And that excavation has been ongoing, and again, the Spanish are excited about it, and so should we.
We really should. Okay, listen, we can never dedicate enough time to talk about such. Where is he in your top 5? He's in your top 5. Where is he as a historical figure?
I think he's up there with the best of them. I think he's the Michael Collins of his time. You're asking me a difficult question because there's so many O'Donnells in Donegal. I'll have John O'Donnell or Councillor O'Donnell or someone giving out to you for not putting him as number 1. But look, from a historical teaching point of view and as a parent, I think he has so much to offer our children, and wouldn't be lovely. And Donegal County Council do a lot of good work, and maybe someone out there with a company or sponsoring something like republishing a child's version, abbreviated version of the life of Hugh O'Donnell to inspire our young people, because he had all the good values and virtues that we should be trying to foster in our children: to be strong, to be committed, to love your country and your language and your people, and to do what's right. Yeah. I think he was a very honourable, upright man, and so when you ask me where is he, he's up there with the best of them, and
Super
one
stuff.
could only be so proud to claim him as one of our own.
Dr. Joe Kelly, as always, thank you so very much indeed. That was History Recalled there. All right, there's never enough time. You could just talk and talk and talk and be learning all the time. All right, it's just a little after 11 o'clock. It's time for a news update, and we say good morning once again to Catherine Gaffney.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. President Putin has given orders to blockade the last remaining Ukrainian-held area of Mariupol, deciding not to storm it. Russia's defence minister says there are around 2,000 Ukrainian troops at a steel plant, which has become the last stand for Kyiv's forces in the area. A man who suffered head injuries in an assault in Sligo has died. The man, who was aged in his late 30s, was attacked in Rockwood Parade area of the town on Tuesday evening. A 22-year-old man charged with murdering 2 men in Sligo will appear in court again today. Yusuf Palani is also accused of assaulting a 3rd man. The Cabinet has approved plans for stalking to become a standalone criminal offence with a prison sentence of up to 10 years. The legislation is expected to pass the Dáil and Seanad by the end of the year. Donegal ETB and Uachtaráis na Gaeltachta have signed a 5-year memorandum of understanding. It's set to build on a history of collaboration and an established partnership between the two organisations. Unionists will continue their campaign against the Northern Ireland Protocol this evening with a protest in Castlederg. It comes 2 weeks before the Stormont elections on the 5th of May. And it's hoped that new funding for Rafo Castle will help promote East of Donegal tourism further. Almost €30,000 was awarded to the Rafo Community in Action Group for a conservation report on the Bishop's Palace this week. That's it for now. We're back with more at 12 noon.
Okay, Catherine, thank you very much indeed. Back with more after the break. And don't forget, amongst other things, we'll be answering all your gardening questions. Get them into us, 086 60 25,000 or call 074 91 25,000.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
At Chrysler Supermarket, we offer daily specials at our deli with fresh and delicious food to go. Avail of our butcher's weekly specials or choose from a range of healthy options and pre-packed meals, plus many more offers in store. We're open 7 days for your convenience. Chrysler Supermarket, where quality and value is assured.
Flanagan's massive half-price store clear-out sale is now on in Buncrana. 50% off Irish-made sofas, tables, beds, wardrobes, rugs and occasional furniture. Pay today and take it away. Furnish your home for half price. Don't miss out. www.flanagans.ie.
This is your guide to smart glasses. Smart glasses often look like regular glasses, and some of them have built-in cameras. Even if you don't wear smart glasses, it's helpful to know what it looks like when someone who is wearing them is taking a photo or video. One way someone can activate their camera is by tapping the capture button on the frame. Another way is by using a voice command, like,
take a photo.
So now you know a bit more about smart glasses.
A message from Meta and Essilor Luxottica.
Oakfield Park is now open, with over 100 acres of mature parklands and lush landscapes to explore. Walks, mazes, gardens and sculptures. Take a ride on Ireland's largest heritage railway and refuel in Buffer's restaurant. New to the park is an educational nature centre and a self-propelled rail cart. Oakfield Park, the secret jewel in the heart of Donegal. Open every Wednesday to Sunday, 12 to 6. Visit oakfieldpark.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Now flying to 19 destinations this summer with 7 days car parking from just €30 when you book online. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, so mist has cleared at this stage, I hope. It'll leave a mostly dry and hazy day with sunny spells developing. Highest temperatures of 13 to 16 degrees and a moderate to fresh east to southeast breeze. One more outbreak just to catch up on before we talk about someone who's had their identity stolen. It's being used to scam people on Tinder. You won't want to miss that.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
The Sky Spring sale is here. Get Sky Q with the TV you love all in one place. And super reliable Sky broadband so you can always stay connected. Plus, choose from Sky Sports or Sky Cinema. All for just €60 a month for 12 months. Don't miss this amazing offer. Just search Sky Spring Sale. Availability subject to location. New Sky customers only. Minimum term and further terms apply. For more information, see sky.ie/speeds.
There's amazing deals every week at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Great specials in tools, hardware and homeware. If you're a tradesperson or you're doing a one-off job, you'll find everything from power tools to hand tools and paint to work clothing. For great weekly deals and a great selection, visit Watson Hire at Kiltoy, Letterkenny. For more information, visit the Facebook page or see watsonhire.ie.
Thinking of going green? At B&S Credit Union Ballybuffet, it has never been easier. We will help you reduce your energy cost with our lower than ever green loan rate. Available for all home improvements that bring energy efficiency such as insulation, heating systems and solar panels. Visit bnscu.ie/green loan or free phone B&S Credit Union at 1800 290 390. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
O'Neill Sportswear massive warehouse clearance sale. T-shirts, tracksuit bottoms, half zips, hoodies and jackets all reduced to clear starting from £6. When it's gone, it's gone. Open from 10 a.m. Wednesday the 20th to Saturday the 23rd of April. Open from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. Sunday the 24th of April. The sale will take place at O'Neill Sportswear Warehouse off the Melmount Road roundabout, Strabane.
Okay, you'd probably be familiar with the Netflix show, The Tinder Swindler. It's about a group of women who were the victims of a dating app-based swindler. They joined together in an attempt to hunt him down and recover the millions of dollars that were stolen from them. They are, of course, victims, but also, I suppose, those who are have their identity stolen and are used for these scams are victims too. Amongst them, James Blake. James, thank you very much for joining us and good morning to you.
Hi, Greg. Good morning. How are you?
I am doing good. Doing good. So, what? You're from Belfast, of course, and run a digital marketing company. So, we appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day to speak to us. So, when did you realise something was up?
Yeah, so it probably all started about a year ago, and it kind of started with maybe one or two different fake profiles that were stealing content off my social media. And at the time, it was kind of a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke. Amongst my friends and in the office and things. But then sort of overnight it just blew up and all of a sudden I was getting people sending me maybe 5 or 6 fake profiles a day using my photos, my name and even pictures of my family, pictures of my staff, all that kind of stuff.
So presumably they had really gone through all of your stuff to, do the scam where they can say, this is me here, this is me there, I'm at work. So they need you in all different situations to be able to keep the scam going so the person they're interacting with thinks they're interacting with a real person.
Absolutely. And they actually basically set up a whole online life using all of my photos, my name. They set up dating profiles. They set up Instagrams, Facebooks, WhatsApps. They effectively just created a whole online life. using all of my imagery and all the info about me, even mentioning my business, but saying that it was a cryptocurrency company rather than a digital marketing company. So people were getting confused between the two and trusting them as proper business people and things. So it was a bit crazy.
Yeah, and of course, as you mentioned in the beginning, it's a bit of a laugh, but there must have come a time though where you thought that, hold on a second, this is a real violation of me, and then start wondering, well, these images and this life is being used to ruin other people's life. Very quickly, I imagine it sort of turns into something completely different, James.
Absolutely. And, it did get to the point where I was receiving messages every day from different women all around the world, Spain, America, as far as even like Argentina and things like this, where women thought they were chatting to me, and then they came across my actual profile and then sent me these horrible messages, screenshots of these fake accounts, basically trying to build up rapport with them. Some of them had chatted to the fake accounts for months. And then all of a sudden the question came across of, well, for example, how do you afford to have a Lamborghini? And then the fake profile saying, well, I do Bitcoin. Have you ever heard of it? And then all of a sudden they start asking them for money and they'll help them make more money and things like that. So it was a massive scam. And it definitely came to head at one point when somebody sent me a screenshot when they had challenged one of the fake profiles. And the fake profile replied with a passport photograph to try and prove their identity. And they had actually physically created a fake passport with my picture and my name and date of birth and stuff. So at that point, it got really scary. And that's whenever I contacted the police and things like that. But unfortunately, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, and of course, too, if they're, it's very clear to me and you having this conversation that you've got your digital marketing company, it does its work and it's got a great reputation and all of that. But there's also then, even though it might be clear that you're not a cryptocurrency company, that next thing you know, your company name gets involved in a toxic article or something, and that has to be a concern. So it's very hard to shift that, even though it's blatantly obvious that you're being victimized here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a massive concern of mine as well. Is obviously I'm only 28 years old and I've had this business for over 6 years now, and I've been in business since I was 16. So I've worked very, very hard to build up a bit of a brand and to build up a bit of a reputation and things. And it is scary to think that that can be affected by people all over. These guys can be anywhere in the world, and it's not just happened even once or 20 times or 50 times. Like there's hundreds of these profiles, and they have scammed tens of thousands. The one woman in Florida, they nearly got $100,000 off her. And I even had somebody messaging me before asking for a receipt, and I was like, a receipt for what? And then they were like, the 5,000 that I just give you for crypto, and I was just like, I'm so sorry, but you've been scammed. And there's a bit of frustration there from the people that get scammed because they nearly think that I can do something about it. And I have tried everything possible, including talking to the platforms, talking to the police. And
but there'll be people also too, James, that'll go, oh, well, there's a lot of money involved in here, and how did they get access to all of his stuff, and where did they get his passport? Even though, as I say, it's blatantly obvious you have no involvement in this, but if someone is out of their life savings, they'll look for someone to blame, and that's a human thing, and they'll look towards you. And the problem we have here too, though, is, you can't dedicate your life trying to get these accounts shut down. As soon as they've got this archive of your information, your photos and what have you, they're not going to just dump that in the bin. They can just make another profile, change the names around a bit, and on it goes. This is a bit of a chain around your neck, like.
No, you're 100% right. And at one point there was actually a point where I got very anxious about it all, and I actually woke up and I was actually very upset because I woke up to multiple screenshots from different people from America, and obviously their time zone's different. So it was all happening during the night. I'm waking up and seeing all these messages first thing in the morning. And I actually remember getting upset and thinking to myself, I can't continue like this. Like, this can't keep going on. This is really starting to affect me. And the problem then was, obviously for me, I've got a good following online and I've worked hard to build that, and it helps with our business and all of that stuff. part of me was like, I just want to get off the internet, and myself personally. But then if I was to do that, that then leaves a massive opportunity for one of these impersonators to just take my space. And it's like, what do? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, exactly. What's the solution to this, though? Because, I mean, these social media companies are hard to deal with. So one, getting shut down might feel like a success, but two could pop up in the same day, for all you know.
Correct.
I mean, it's about how accounts are created here. That's what it comes down to. That someone has to prove their identity, perhaps, before establishing a dating account or a social media account. That's the only way things like this can be. They'll probably still get round it, James. But other than that, it's they can do whatever they like from wherever they like behind a VPN or whatever.
You're right. And I've reported hundreds of profiles at this point. I've also had my staff do it. I've had friends do it. I've had followers do it, and even random people have done it that I don't know, and they still are active. And Instagram replies with, they don't go against community guidelines, which is pretty insane considering how could they not? But it's an AI, I think, checking it. I don't think it's actually someone physically checking it. And I think that's where the problem lies. I think these companies they're so big that they nearly forget that there's human being users on these platforms, and it's important to cater for these people. So I think that there's a big flaw there in their system, and I've spoke to them, and hopefully by doing things like this as well, it can raise a bit of awareness that will maybe prompt them to take a bit of action on it.
Yeah, exactly, because someone has to take responsibility at some point. It's the same as scam calls. Companies can create accounts in Dublin and use those to scam calls, and of course they can clone numbers. They don't have to do that as much now as they used to in the past. But telephone companies make money off this. The likes of Facebook, Tinder, and all the others, TikTok, and wherever it might be. I mean, there's any end of places that your image and what could could end up. But the only way this gets resolved is someone's responsible, that it's not the victim, either the person that's had their identity stolen, or it's not the victim who gets exploited. Someone has to be responsible at some point.
You're totally right. There has to be someone that's held accountable for what's going on. And I have to say that platforms have been different. Tinder, for example, any profiles I've been sent, I've reported them straight to Tinder, and Tinder have removed them. So Tinder have been fantastic and really responsive. But it seems to be the big players like Facebook, Meta, that owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. They just do not seem to be responsive in the slightest. And it's very frustrating, especially as somebody who's in this space. And, we work with Facebook on a daily basis. We work with all of these platforms, and still nothing is done. Yeah. So if somebody who is in this space and in this space daily can't get it done, how's a normal person going to do that doesn't have access to the same resources?
But the problem, James, is it's proved there's a will, there's a way. I think Tinder, I'm not saying they wouldn't do it anyway, but because there is an element of hookup or meetup as well, perhaps with Tinder, that they maybe
there's a bit of danger there.
Exactly. Yeah. And they think, right, if something happened to someone in person, what would the blowback be on our company? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's maybe
I agree.
So it just goes to show, if you're concerned enough, these companies can find a way. So what next for you? Obviously, you're getting out there to try and, I suppose, to warn people, maybe to embarrass these companies into action. I mean, there's not an awful lot you can do at this point, really.
There's not. I mean, the only thing that I have been doing as of late is we would do a lot of PR around our business and stuff anyway, and I have been purposefully including in that, like, this is my official Instagram, this is this, anything else is a fake. And thankfully that's worked. We've been in some big publishers and magazines and newspapers and stuff, and people have came to us and said, thank God I read that, because I had just spent 2 months talking to somebody who I thought was you, which is mad.
But we're in a cycle here, and once this cycle closes, what happens then afterwards? Because, and just a quick word on Facebook as well. Like, I'm constant. The adverts on my Facebook from verified accounts are Ryan Tuberty talking about cryptocurrency, Elon Musk. Do you know what I'm on about? Like, they should be able to, and these are from verified accounts as well. They should be able to have some controls over it. And if they could control that kind of stuff, they could probably do more to control the situation you find yourself in.
No, you're completely right. You're completely right. And just as of recently, we had one of the scammers had created a Vindicta investment agency. We're a Vindicta digital marketing agency. And they actually were running ads from the investment agency for crypto. which is insane because they're using our logo, our brand, everything. And Facebook allowed this to happen. So we're currently talking with Facebook about this. So there's just so many elements there. And somebody does have to, at some point, as you say, Greg, go, listen, this is our fault. We need to be accountable for this, and we're going to take action, and this is what we're going to do. But so far, there hasn't been any of that. And it's just been a constant battle. And it is one that makes everybody weary on every side, you know, because there's people losing money when they can't afford to lose money. And there's just like I had a woman message me saying that she had $1,000 in her bank account, and the scammer took $800, leaving her with $200 to feed 3 of her kids for a full month and pay her rent, which is not possible. And hearing heartbreaking things like that really hits home and makes you think, wow, this is impacting people in a big way. It's not just a silly fake profile.
It's not
or
victimless yet. There's victims out there that they're... All right, listen, James, congratulations on your success, by the way, and all you've achieved at relatively young age. 28's not too young, so don't be too cocky. You know, you're pushing 30 now.
I know, don't remind me. Don't remind me.
But listen, and thanks for joining us to try and help get that word out there, because it's not just you. It's a lot of them are sort of relationship scams and as well. So it's people can keep an eye out for them exploiting you in trying to exploit others, but a lot of people are victims of, in terms of having all their photos and their life stolen from them. So I think you're totally helping beyond just yourself. So thank you very much for that.
I hope so.
All right, take care of yourself. Continued success, James. God bless. All right, James Blake there. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts. All right, back with more on the 9 till noon show after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
COVID-19 can still cause serious illness, especially in people at higher risk. We need to keep protecting each other. So stay home if you have symptoms. Wear a mask in healthcare settings, public transport, and busy places. Let fresh air in if you're meeting indoors. Keep hands clean. And get a COVID-19 vaccine and booster. Let's keep looking out for each other. From the HSE, for us all.
Clear Mobile has 99% 4G population coverage. So where are people going?
Out west with 4 bars and all. Dublin, outside of Dublin.
Longford, Waterford, all the Fords.
There you go. This April, choose great coverage with unlimited calls, texts and data from $12.99 a month. Clearmobile.ie. You clear? They are. 30-day contract. Activation fee and fair usage applies. Max data speed 5 megabits per second. $12.99 subject to eligibility. Ends 30th of April 2022. See clearmobile.ie for terms.
Century Complex, the perfect family day out this Easter. Kids will love exploring Century Play. We have lots of tasty options at Backstage Bar and Grill. And Century Cinemas are showing kids' movies, rom-coms, action and adventure movies, dramas and more. Call us on 074 91 21976 or visit centurycinemas.ie.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off everything in store. All kitchen and bathroom tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware, all cladding. Everything's reduced. It's our biggest ever sale. The Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
The Jive Time Show is coming live this Friday from Pro Fitness Ballybofey. We will be finding out about the Row the Fin 2022 in aid of local charities. We will have the usual great music and giveaways, and I might even do a bit of rowing myself. Join me, David James, this Friday from 2:30 to 5 p.m. at Pro Fitness Ballybofey.
The Ulster Championship begins for Donegal this Sunday afternoon. Declan Bonner's side will look to make home advantage count as they host Armagh in the quarter-final of the provincial campaign. Join Oisín Kelly and Martin McHugh at McCool Park Ballybofey for the big match build-up and live match commentary here on Highland from 1:40. Donegal action in the Ulster Championship is brought to you by Highland Motors Letterkenny, your main Renault and Dacia dealer in Donegal, with the iconic Dacia Duster, the family SUV for all your adventures. Available in diesel and petrol from just €189 per month. Order yours today. Lending terms and conditions apply. See Renault.ie.
Now, you may have seen the adverts in newspapers or heard them on the radio as a way to raise awareness of bowel cancer, as April is Bowel Cancer Awareness Month, and almost 2,700 people in Ireland are diagnosed with bowel cancer each year, and the Irish Cancer Society is urging people to be aware of the signs and the symptoms. And Tess Green is going to help us to raise awareness further. Tess, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
It's good to have you on the programme. Right, okay, so you were recently diagnosed with bowel cancer, Tess. I'm obviously very sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Did it come as a surprise? I mean, obviously there were symptoms, but you were looking at other things. I think particularly given your age, I think a lot of the focus on adverts can be over a certain age, and you're well under that, Tess.
That's right,
as much as you're comfortable in discussing it, tell us your story.
Yeah, so I'd actually moved to Derry in the summertime, and I was starting a new job in September as a probation officer there. My training is social work, and so I had just started that in September, and my daughter had also moved to college, so there was a lot going on, and I was in my final year as well of a psychotherapy degree. So, you know, I suppose the fatigue would have kicked in first of all, but I was able to write that off with all that was going on in my life at that time. I'd also just changed contraception, so they had advised me that I would get cramps. So when I was experiencing pain, I was kind of going, okay, then, and that's to do with the contraception. And so I was taking Nurofen and Panadol to help with that. Now, I wouldn't ever have tablets like that in my house. So when I started becoming constipated, I was kind of putting it down then to having taken these painkillers. So each one I was able to explain away, you know, and kind of building on it.
It was the perfect storm, wasn't it? The way the daisy changed to be anything but bowel cancer.
That's exactly it. And I am celiac as well. So, you know, I would have had irregularities there anyway.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be any surprise to me to feel either constipation or diarrhea as well, you know. So, I was just one of those things. And then because I was so, I had always wanted to be a probation officer, and I was so excited about my new job and loving it as well, that I really didn't want to be anything other than just a wee blip. But I do think too that being able to buy over-the-counter medication for the likes of constipation, we minimise it in our heads, but there's also a bit of a taboo there as well, you know, going to the doctors just because of constipation. But actually it's the first sign of something not being okay. And I think, and with COVID too, and doctors are so under pressure, there was that wee niggle bit of me that was thinking, oh, this is too simple to be going to get it seen to. And so then in early December, the pain was just getting worse and worse. And then it progressed. So on the 20th of December, I went to the A&E department, and that they started off with an X-ray, and then they did an ultrasound, and then we did a CT scan. And at this point, I was thinking, God, what is happening here?
Why are they digging in so deep? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they did a colonoscopy, and it was strange because when I went in for the colonoscopy, even though I couldn't see anybody, I was actually able to read the room, and I knew that they had saw something that wasn't good. So I was taken up to the ward at that point. This was Tuesday evening at this stage, and I was taken up to a ward, and Dr. Obai called me in, and his team were all there, and the nurses and that, and the stoma nurses, and they were such support as well. But he just said, and he was such a gentleman about it as well, Craig, you know, he was so clear and yet so calming, and I felt in safe hands from the very beginning.
But you know, that's funny that you know, we often talk about the diagnosis as in I was told, and then, you know, dealing with the disease or illness or whatever it might be afterwards. But I mean, those moments, like, you know, of knowing what was going on in the room, the anxiety and all of that stuff. I mean, that's hard to deal with. That sticks with you. That does, because that's your life changes at that moment.
at that moment. And the way he managed that was he would give me a snippet of the information that he had, and he would stop and let that kind of settle, and then we would move on to the next bit. And I think at that point, the only thing that was really making me cry was that I wasn't going to get home for Christmas. And my daughter, she was 18 at the time, she just turned 19 there. And although she's older, we still have all those traditions, and we have, you just want to be with your family and times
and the
like
excitement of a new job. You want to be you want to be going at that 100%. The rug's pulled right from underneath you.
Absolutely.
So then, what does stage 4 bowel cancer mean in terms of? I mean, I presume the stage 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure if it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So stage 4, that really kind of came to a head on January 18th when I got chatting to the oncologist, because don't get me wrong, Google's great, Greg, but when you actually go and start using
Google's
it yourself,
not great.
Yeah,
Google is far from great.
Yeah,
but I take your point.
It makes you panic.
Yeah.
There's information there, but it makes you panic, and it makes it simplified as well, and that's not the case. So I had actually put myself into a stage 3 category. So when the oncologist said, "Well, actually, no, you are in stage 4," it hit me like a train. It really, really did, and. So I had to explain to him, what stage 4 means to the layman person, because that is terminal to many people. He did say at that time that we have some hope, but then proceeded to talk about kind of extended life expectancy and, things like that.
You must have been like, we're not having this conversation here. We're not talking about how long I have.
The whole time I was in hospital, the whole time I was up in the A&E, not once did cancer cross my mind, because especially bowel cancer. Bowel cancer to me was such an older person's cancer. And it just really shows. And then as well, I am actually a vegan, and I would eat plant-based, and there's a lot of that, Craig, out there where it's almost your own responsibility. It's not that you bring it on yourself, but your diet and your health and your exercise and all that, and nobody, I would eat a very healthy diet, and I was always exercising, and yet this has happened to me. So that's why it never really entered my head when I was in the hospital that this could possibly be anything. So it really came as a huge shock to me. And then to hear it was stage 4, I was, and the fact I had asked Dr. Obai as well, how long had this been going on, inside my body?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. And he placed it at 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
So for a cancer to have started up, to have blocked off the bowel as much as it had, and to have spread to more than 2/3 of the lymph nodes and to the peritoneum, it was huge damage that it done in a very short space of time.
Unbelievable. And you had a major operation in January, and you're going through your treatment at the moment still.
So the operation was actually the following day, because he wanted to operate that night, because it was so severe and the bowel had been so badly damaged. They prepared me for a stoma bag, but he decided that both of us needed a rest. Neither of us had really slept that day, and whatever. So it was 7 o'clock in the morning. It was 11-hour operation on December 22nd. But he managed to stitch me back up, the bowel back up, without having the stoma bag.
Okay.
Now that took its own complications in January. I had gastric colitis, and I had a lot of pain. I was actually hospitalized a couple of times during that period. But come February, then I started to build myself up, and on 14th of February, I started quite a severe type of chemo. So it's 1 day in the oncology day services, and it's a type of chemo there, and then I'm sent home for another 2 days with a chemo bottle. So it's 3 days of chemo every 2 weeks that I'm receiving at the moment.
Right.
And that will go on for at least 12, and then we'll review it and we'll see where we're at with that. And if it's depending on where it's all at, that will go to 18 maybe if needs be.
Right. Well, hopefully everything goes the way it should.
Yeah.
I mean, and listening to your story, Tess, and it's fantastic of you to speak out, and that we all have to say, don't put it down to something else, or don't ignore it. But listening to your story, it doesn't sound like there's an awful lot more. Like there's nothing else. There's not an awful lot you could have done, if you know what I mean, because you were told that changing the contraception was going to cause cramps. It was quite quick as to how it went from an upset stomach or constipation to pain.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you. It doesn't sound to me like there's an awful lot you could have done. Now there's an awful lot we can do to keep an eye on it, but this just it just went straight through you. It went for you,
Just like
went for you,
wildfire.
didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it really was just like wildfire, actually. And I think that I have an Instagram page as well, Greg, that I'm just kind of showing the journey of it. And that was one of the things that, you know, you can be dismissive, but actually sometimes you need to sit down and maybe put it all together. And we're not medically trained. Most of us are not medically trained. And that's when we need to say, okay, that's a few things that are happening all together, and I need to go and get that seen to, you know, because like coming up to the last bit, I couldn't have got any more prunes or stewed apples in me.
But you know, if you talked about the medicine you might get, and in the tiniest writing in the back, it will say probably something along the lines of, you know, if symptoms last longer than 2 or 3 days or whatever it might be, see your GP. But it is really seen as a self-medication issue, isn't it? It's not seen as something that it could be a potential flag.
No, absolutely. And I think too, the fact that I was 38 when I was diagnosed, I think that needs to be really written home for us all, that this does not know your age. It does not discriminate because of a healthy diet or an unhealthy diet. It is there. It's possible to happen. And I think one of the things that I did say on my page as well was that, you know, get to know your own body and be in tune with that, and be confident in that when you go into the GP, that actually, no, I'm not happy with just taking over the, you know, medication, or this doesn't feel right in my own body. And I think that's really important, that we learn to trust our own bodies again, rather than Google, or rather than leaving it up to medics.
And there's a lot of particularly a lot of the symptoms of bowel cancer overlap with a lot of other things as well.
That's right.
And you can quite easily, if you're in the frame of mind to say, well, it's not that, it's probably this. This is one of those cancers whereby you can put it down to a ton of things.
Yeah.
And we don't really, we need not to be doing that. We need to actually be saying, hold on a second, there's 1 or 2 or 3 red flags here. It could be, and we've, you know, the sooner you can get it looked at, the better, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you didn't really get that opportunity, but I mean, for most others, Tess.
Yes, absolutely. No, definitely. And it's that being in tune, but it's also kind of like the stigma around bowels and poo and all that, you know, you're kind of like, it's either seen as something that's funny, or it's seen as something that's maybe dirty, and so you're
people think it's embarrassing. And you know what? It's put into us probably from the age of 1.
That's it. That's exactly it. And then there's
poo's dirty. It has to be hidden. It's don't talk about it. We'll hide and change a nappy, and then we get a bag and we'll tie it in a nice smelling bag. And you know, we're conditioned so early, like.
That's right. And like when my daughter was young, we used to have a wee poo dance, and I was saying to my friend, we need to bring back the poo dance. You know, we need to bring that back. But there are cultures around the world that will actually have a small prayer that they say every time they go to the loo. And it's because it's so important. It's because it's a real sign that your body's functioning, that you're okay. And I think one of my main symptoms as well, Greg, was that I was quite weepy, and I was feeling a wee bit down in the dumps, maybe a wee bit. And like I had studied nutrition years ago, and back then they were talking about the link between the brain and the gut, whereas now we have more and more research to say that the microbiome in the brain is just so linked that we really don't realize it. And that was a clear sign that something was not okay in my gut, when my head was actually not okay either.
So we can do what we can do best, and that's, as you say, learn your body, trust your body, understand the signs, follow the signs. I think it's important too, isn't it, that we are assured that medics, GPs and what have you, our first points of contact, don't go, well, you're under 50 or you're under 65 or, you know, because that's been a big focus of the ads. And I've listened to the ads, and I did honestly kind of think, right, well, this must be something that primarily affects older people, but not exclusively.
Not exclusively.
So the medicals have to take note as well of what we're talking about.
And it's really great that the Irish Cancer Society have taken that on board, because I've noticed a few people that's on their web pages and that it's young people, Greg, you know, and it's getting that idea of this being a, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s type of cancer out of our mindset and actually into the public domain, that this can happen at any time, you know.
Yeah, just to underline the symptom side of things we were talking about, the Irish Cancer Society did a survey of 1,000 people, now presumably of all age groups, and asked them questions presumably about how they're feeling, their bowel habits and what have you. And they found that 1 in 4 of the people they spoke to have a potential symptom of bowel cancer. cancer, but did not yet seek medical opinion. 13% of people are very concerned about a bowel cancer diagnosis. 13%. So in other words, it's not on our radar as something that's likely to happen. I think that's what that means. And 47 have some level of concern overall. Only 1 in 4 have ever spoken to the doctor or pharmacist about bowel health, which is a figure that surprises me because there's quite a lot of intestinal bowel issues around. I would have thought that figure would have been higher, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I actually first started getting really constipated and I was like, God, this is going on so long, I spoke to one of the girls at work about it. And like I said, I'd only been working there 4 months at the time. And it was because I had taken it to her in a kind of like concerned manner. She met me straight away with a concerned manner and explained to me that she too had problems the year before. So we all do it. So I mean, why aren't we talking about it?
Yeah, I wonder how long. She might have been bottling that up herself.
Yeah, and it just showed me that we all have that issue about it. We can have experience issues, but we're not talking about it until somebody comes to us and maybe gives their story as well. So how important is it that somebody starts that ball rolling on a decent conversation about it?
Yeah, because you know a space was opened up by you. Where she felt comfortable to divulge something that she might not even be able to tell her partner or feel comfortable telling her partner. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but you know
that's
what I mean?
a very possibility.
You opened a door and she was like, wow, okay, I'm in a safe space, not a safe space, but you know what I mean? I'm in a comfortable space now where I can actually say, well, this is, you know. Yeah. All right, listen, I wish you all the success with your treatment. I'm sure it'll work very well for you. It's tough for you, particularly with a young family, and you know what I mean, because you're balancing your emotions and I'm sure making sure everyone else is okay too.
Yes.
You know, you take
it rips right through the family, Craig, and we've been very fortunate that, you know, we hadn't had really that much of an experience of it, especially in young cancer, but it does affect, it's the ripple effect that it has. But I just hold on to that there is hope, and I will make that the bigger part of the story for me, you know, right till the end.
All right. Listen,
thank you so much for asking me to come
No,
on this,
thank
Carol.
you. It's been very interesting speaking to you, and I think you've helped people, and I think that's why you're doing this today.
Yes.
And so in that regard, you've done fantastic, and I really appreciate it, Tess. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. That is Tess Green there from Donegal. Wonderful lady, of course. And as I say, I've said it before, it's amazing when people speak out in their own personal crises to help others. Some of the symptoms of bowel cancer include a lasting change in your bowel habit, giving more often looser motions or constipation. So in Tess's instance, it was constipation, but more often going to the toilet more often, and looser motions can also be a sign. Blood in your poo or bleeding from your back passage. Pain or discomfort in your tummy area or back passage, trapped wind or fullness in your tummy, a lump in your tummy area or rectum, feeling you've not emptied your bowel fully even after going to the toilet, unexplained weight loss, or feeling tired and breathless due to anemia, which is a fewer red blood cells. Now, all of those won't necessarily be present, but some of them could. I don't want to worry people, but, you know, we can't not talk about these things either. Thank you, Tess, for sharing your story. What a lady. Great message to deliver. Be confident about knowing your own body. Stay well. Coming in from Breda in Glasgow. Listening to that very brave lady talking about bowel cancer is a wake-up call for all younger people. My friend lost her life to bowel cancer. She was just 33. Unfortunately, her diagnosis was missed by health professionals until it was too late. This was because seemingly cancer was not suspected because of her young age. And I think that touches on a few points that we were talking about there with Tess. Okay, we'll be back with more after these.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you in association with Florit Letterkenny, celebrating 5 years in business, offering quality wooden floors at exceptional value. Visit florit.ie.
Is your child starting school this September? First 5, a whole-of-government strategy to improve the lives of babies, young children and their families, wants to help prepare them for this big step. Visit your local library and you can pick up a free little library book bag, packed with books, stories and fun, and their very own library card. There's one for every child starting school in 2022. Available now at your local library. An initiative of the Government of Ireland in association with Libraries Ireland.
Sportswear for men at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Under Armour training, quarter zips, tech tees with classic training shorts in different lengths. Nike running range with quarter zips. Nike Pro t-shirts match with a classic 5-inch Nike running shorts. Adidas Tiro 21 range in new seasonal colours will have you looking healthy and fit. Look the part, play the part. In store or online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Flanagan's massive half-price store clear-out sale is now on in Buncrana. There's 50% of Irish-made sofas, tables, beds, wardrobes, rugs and occasional furniture. Pay today and take it away. See flanagans.ie.
When it feels like money's tight, it's good to know that there's an Aldi price match at Tesco with hundreds of your favourite products every week. From bananas to Barry's tea. So you can be sure you'll find the products that matter most to you. Because right now, every little helps. Shopping took place on the 7th of April. Price checked and matched to comparable products from select Aldi ROI stores and or online weekly. Price most often found is matched pro rata and excluding promotions. Products matched may vary by week. Product availability varies by store. For verification, see tesco.ie/groceries.
Love swimming? Love it with a level head. Learn about weather, tides and rip currents. Be visible with a brightly coloured hat and tow float. Swim parallel to shore and never alone. Afterwards, get warm quickly. This is Water Safety Ireland. Better safe than sorry. For open water swimming advice, visit watersafety.ie. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Shed costs soar by over 50%. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
With the rapid price rise in building materials, we look at the costs of building a farm shed this year. Find out if solar panels are right for your farm and how long they could take to repay. Investigation launched into Kerry Milk Bonus payout, and TB numbers fall for the first time since 2016.
Plus, we have a special health and fitness focus in Irish country living. Only inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. On sale now.
All ready for next year? Why not make sure of it with SEAT? Trade up to a 221 SEAT SUV and you'll be offered PCP finance from 1.9% and a 3-year service plan for just $9.99 a month. With the bold new Arona, the stylish new Ateca, or the outstanding 7-seater Tarraco, we're all ready. Are you? Trade up to your 221 SEAT SUV at DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland, trading as SEAT Financial Services. Subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply. Visit seat.ie/221 for further information.
You know how it is when we visit a new destination abroad. Squeezing it all in, sightseeing, touring the attractions, yet our own rich national heritage can be invisible to us. See it all through fresh eyes on heritageireland.ie. Hundreds of castles, monuments and historic houses beautifully maintained by the OPW. From Kilkenny Castle to the Botanic Gardens. Why not lose yourself at home? Explore heritageireland.ie, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Gatwick's back. You can now fly daily to London Gatwick with Aer Lingus, the perfect gateway to explore South London. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Today mostly dry with hazy sunny spells developing. Temperatures 13 to 16 degrees in a moderate to fresh east to southeast breeze. Okay. Paul McLaughlin, gardener at Ballochder Garden Centre, joins us. Get your questions in if you want them answered. 08660 25,000. Hiya, Paul.
Hi, Greg.
So, spring has sprung. Is it full steam ahead now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for the most part, it's still quite cold at night, but they're good growth. Actually, you noticed the grass in the last week, they're real starting to grow, and it's a real cheerful sign. Have you seen the likes of the cherry trees about the countryside all coming into full bloom?
You know, it's a good sign, don't you? Right, okay, so maybe people were cautious or leave it till late, or maybe looking at if they are lucky to have a garden and thinking, right, I need to start doing stuff now. What do they need to be getting at?
Yeah, pretty much. If you haven't already done it, now's a perfect time to do a bit of a tidy up. By doing a tidy up, it's even spend a couple of hours at it. It's actually amazing how much of a difference you can make. And by actually getting in contact with it and doing wee jobs on it, you can see what sort of areas need attention for the coming year, and it'll help you plan what you're going to do for the year. Yeah.
In terms of maintenance, obviously, as I say, if you've got grass, cutting the grass, bedding plants, your flower beds, now is the time to be adding a bit of fertilizer in there, or
yeah, perfect. Any sort of general purpose fertilizer. Most of the shrubs are just the growth kicking off.
Would this be a job for your world famous chicken poo?
Yep, that'll be it. Okay. Perfect. It's a good organic fertilizer, and it's very hard to overdose with it. Pretty much, the chemical fertilizers can do more harm than good sometimes.
And all jokes aside, I mean, I presume, we know the farming community is experiencing huge price rises in the fertilizer they acquire. Is it the same sort of with the more domestic used fertilizer?
Yeah, pretty much any chemical based stuff really is the same increase. Most of them's like 100% sort of increase.
Yeah.
Whereas like the organic stuff, the seaweed and the chicken poo, as it hasn't seen the same sort of thing. They'll be up maybe 10-20%.
Yeah.
But it's not near the same huge increase.
So do you anticipate maybe this year, above all other years, maybe a more of a transition to the organic?
I think so. I think more people are sort of getting in tune with it, and they're actually seeing that the sort of more traditional things like the manures and the seaweeds and stuff actually work just as well.
Yeah, and that's your view, and you're in the business. So.
Yes.
Is that stuff readily available though?
Pretty much the chemical fertilizers, once again, we would usually buy it, say 30-40 bags at a time. Our suppliers are just giving us 10 at a time now because they can't get the stock, so they're kind of spreading it among everybody to keep them happy.
Yeah.
Basically, so it's not as readily available, whereas once again the more organic stuff is the chickens still do the same business. So
yes, okay. Right, okay. In terms of sort of your outdoor planting then, we talked about beds, pots. What can you be doing now that won't be wasted?
Yeah, pretty much there are, if you have an occasion coming up like a wedding or something, there are sort of spring flowers available for bedding plants, that sort of stuff. But really the summer stuff, it is too early yet. If you put them out now, they may not particularly die, but they'll kind of huff on you and they'll just sit there and they won't actually get very far. So generally middle of May towards the end of May is perfect time to put out the summer stuff. And by sacrificing a week at this end of the year, you'll probably make a month at the far end of the year.
All right. Bedding plants though, when we talk about bedding, so what is bedding?
Bedding is generally supposed traditionally to be stuff that was put into sort of the decorative beds like you've seen about around your big fancy houses. Now people generally go for pots, window boxes.
So that's bedding plants.
Yeah,
okay.
They're generally annuals, so they last the one season and then that's them.
And the temptation is as soon as it's sort of the mid-teens, and I think even maybe we had good weather about 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and I can understand it, want to get the bedding plants in because they want to make what they have look nice, and it's just a wee bit too early. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. Like a day like today looks perfect. It's sunny and it's actually quite warm outside and everything. But like tonight could be down 0 or below, which is just that's going to take the growth out of them basically.
All right, so hold off till May. We're not far away now.
No, exactly.
Right.
Just a couple of weeks to wait.
Because we talk about good and bad summers and all that kind of stuff, but in terms of the basics of weather, is this relatively predictable?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Generally, mid-May around here, you should be rid of the worst of the frost.
Yeah, exactly. I would hope so. I don't like the word "should" in there. Okay, right. We're going to get round to some more general advice, but let's ask some questions coming in. Leather jackets in flower beds. There's still a lot of plants still in flower.
Yeah, leather jackets, once again, a huge problem this year because there's been not a huge amount of hard frost. Usually does away with the sort of larvae that's in the ground. So there are more chemical alternatives coming back in the market. They had been banned for a few years, but they're coming back. But they're going to be very heavily regulated, so it'll probably be a job for a contractor.
Describe to me what a leather jacket is.
Leather jackets are sort of immature daddy longlegs.
Right.
It's like they fly about for the summer. They lay their eggs about August, which hatch out about, say, February or so. And sort of pupa, I think you call them, they eat the roots of the grass basically.
So is their cycle being delayed now? I mean, are we seeing them later?
No, it's pretty much now sort of
right.
prime time. They start doing their damage about mid-February and you don't actually realise it until the damage is done almost. So now's the time when you start seeing it.
So really the only solution to them buggers is...
you can actually, if you can get a way of attracting them to the surface, some people use black plastic or carpet, then go out at dawn and remove it. They'll all be sitting on the surface, and then starlings and stuff will come along and eat them all. So that's your organic thing, but it wouldn't be as foolproof, shall we say.
No, and you're not going to get them all. And okay, is there any way of preventing cows from eating the apples on my apple tree? Which is pretty random. I'm not sure there's 1,000 people out there with this problem.
Pretty much the only sort of foolproof way would be fencing. Like there's nothing that's going to deter a cow basically once the cow gets in. So fencing off the area.
Like this is not like snails or something where you can put out some garlic or whatever it might be.
So what do you go? But no, we would if you had such thing, we would electric fence around it for a while.
Yeah.
And once again, if you break the habit, hopefully the cow would go somewhere else to find its dinner.
Okay. An apple a day keeps the butcher away. Why did the rhubarb stay green instead of turning red this year for this caller?
Rhubarb sort of turned red. That it has to do with sunlight and that sort of stuff. So possibly it was a bit in the shade.
Shady, right?
That, yeah, but generally as we get more sunshine, more daylight, hopefully it should turn red.
And let us know, by the way, if your rhubarb was in shade, because it's always good to find out if we fixed a problem there. So if that was you texting, let us know. Paul says it really needs some direct sunlight, presumably.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And if yours didn't, that's why. Is there any way of ripening that after the fact, or is that then?
Rhubarb, I'm not sure of. The likes of tomato, stuff like that, there's very easy to ripen.
Yeah.
You just put them in a drawer with a banana, and ethanol comes off the banana, will ripen stuff. So you can possibly try the same with rhubarb.
So putting your bananas in the same fruit bowl as your apples is not a good idea, is it?
No, generally it does. Actually, there's a chemical that comes off the banana.
Speeds up the
speeds up
ripening,
the,
stroke rotting, presumably.
Yes, pretty much.
I'm looking to plant a low-level box-type hedging. Now, something we want to keep to a maximum of 3 foot high. Any suggestions?
Yeah. Well, traditionally the actual box hedging itself would be quite good. It's had its own problems in the last few years with actually box blight, but it's for that traditional sort of low hedge that would be quite good. Another couple of things would be you get Hebes there would do the job, or you can actually get Berberis, which would do the job as well, sort of form into a nice wee low hedge.
Okay. I've got a laurel garden hedge about 25 yards long for months. Hundreds of wasps have been feeding off the leaves. I haven't bothered them, but are they harming the hedge?
Once again, they're probably not doing a huge amount of harm. A laurel hedge, obviously, you tend to see the edges of the leaves nibbled a lot, so you would. And a strong, healthy laurel will fight that off. It could cause problems if the hedge was weak. So rather than sort of disturbing the wasps or anything like that there, what I would do is feed the hedge and build up the hedge's immunity.
Resistance.
Basically,
yeah. Okay.
and then that should solve the whole problem.
I've grown some Grisselinia from slips. What would be the best food or fertilizer to help them grow stronger?
Once again, probably back to our good old-fashioned chicken poo.
The chicken poo. We need to get a sponsor, sponsored by chicken poo.
Yeah. So what do you get? No, it's just generally it's the best food for the job.
Yeah, okay. Fruit trees. Some general advice on fruit trees. What is the story now? Is it a good time to plant, prune? What should we be doing with them?
Generally, you would have had them pruned at this stage already. If you know what I mean, it's probably not too late. But if you do too much late pruning whenever the flowers is on them, you probably end up losing apples. But now's the perfect time to plant them to actually be well established by the time the fruiting season comes.
Yeah. Roses used to be, this is only anecdotal, we used to get tons and tons and tons of questions on roses, and then a few years ago they sort of started to fade out. Are roses out of vogue a wee bit at the moment?
A wee bit, alright. Gardening is actually, I think, is hugely fashionable sort of things come in and go out.
That's why I ask,
It's actually funny, lavender was another product, like say 5 years ago everyone wanted lavender. The last 3 or 4 years nobody wanted it, and this year everybody's gone lavender mad again. But roses seem to, the last couple of years seem to be sort of on the wane slightly, because as opposed to other shrubs that take a lot of maintenance, such as your roses, if you want to keep them in tip-top condition, you have to be spraying them every 2 weeks.
They used to be hard to get now, but even around Valentine's Day, I think it's because of the discount stores and what have you coming in, they're just like 10 a penny. I just wonder if they've lost their specialness.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Quite possibly, but unfortunately this year with the price increases, a lot of them are actually going to become exclusive again.
Right, okay. Listen, we're running out of time. I want to get to questions. Fruit bushes, what should I do? My plum trees are in bloom. What should I do with them now other than stand back and look at them, enjoy?
Yeah, pretty much. Plum trees, once again, should be fairly good at looking after itself. You actually get a product called sulphate of potash, which is a type of fertilizer. You get it in most garden centres. It doesn't actually feed the tree, but it feeds the fruit on the tree. So scatter a wee bit of that around it now would be perfect.
Flatworms have exploded in my garden. What can I do to get rid of them without killing everything else?
Yes, flatworms have been a problem. They're actually sort of classed as an invasive species now, but unfortunately, there's not much you can do with them that's going to kill them exclusively. The only thing is, if you have even cover a bit of the garden, like we said with the leather jackets, and attract them to the surface.
So you don't have a ton of faith in that one, Paul?
No, try and manually remove them, basically, but there's nothing you can put on that's going to kill them and not kill everything else in the vicinity.
Yeah, it's just part of nature, isn't it?
Pretty much,
especially when it comes to the invasive stuff. Right, veg garden. What is it time? What should we do now with vegetables?
Yeah, now's prime time for planting stuff. Even in the garden centre, you could retransplant your cabbages, cauliflowers, broccoli, all that sort of stuff. And even if you're starting easy stuff for kids, onions, even herbs, stuff like that, there now is a perfect time for that kind of carry on.
All right, polytunnels needed or not?
Polytunnels, yes, very hugely. Since lockdowns came out and people started working at home, the interest in polytunnels has exploded. So it has, because people are at home now and they've an hour in the middle of the day where they have nothing to do. So they're actually heading out to their tunnel. It's keeping them away from the fridge, basically.
Yeah, my hedge is facing west. Leaves are burning. Is anyone else having this problem? In other words, from your perspective, have you heard anyone else having this problem?
Yes, funny, I was actually in Donal yesterday, and a lot of the conifers there in coastal areas, it was generally that had been weakened through the winter with that storm Franklin. seems to have done a huge amount of damage. A lot of the bigger trees that got there, they're sort of, the new leaves emerging, got burnt. So hopefully they will snap out of it as time goes on.
And planted a thorn hedge a few months ago. Do I need to fertilise it at this stage? And if so, what is best?
Yeah, I think you can probably guess the answer to
chicken
this.
poo. Right,
Yes,
okay.
and the thorns, if they're sort of tall and leggy, cut them off about 6 or 7 inches down, and that'll help them bush out.
Paul McLaughlin, gardener at Bolligder Garden Centre. Of course, you can visit the centre and chat to Paul and his colleagues too for more information. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. All right, I really appreciate it, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. All right, that's where we have to leave it.